Villarreal, and wow, whoo, what a night, what a week, unbelievable. This has been I've as many of you probably as well, probably lost a lot of sleep this week. Glued to X, glued to the TV, phones, whatever, trying to get information, news, whatnot, what have you, out there about what's going on. Very, very serious situation, no doubt about it. First, I have to say a few things right up front, and I'll sort of give the headline up front, and then we'll work through it. A lot of different things. There's also Tucker versus Ted Cruz. The full interview is dropping tomorrow. There's clips out there. Tucker's putting stuff up. Ted Cruz is putting stuff up. Senator Cruz. Very interesting on this topic. Obviously, Israel, Middle East, Iran, all this type of stuff. Trump's been saying different things. It's just a lot of stuff going on out there. Okay. What I would say, let me say up front, first of all my personal opinion only, not alleging facts, not casting aspersions, all entertainment purposes only. Please check all the disclaimers. Obviously, this is a very, very serious subject, but that's I say that for other reasons, obviously, for disclaimer reasons. Where do I start? Okay, sure, I'm going to make mistakes. I apologize ahead of time. We were supposed to go on vacation today. We got delayed one day, so I'm up. It's late. I'm overnight, and all that type of stuff. So I reserve the right to revise and extend my comments. I'm not putting this out on LinkedIn. I may post it later. It may not be LinkedIn content. We'll find out. Number one. So I hope you give me some grace here in terms of being able to talk about this. I've put a lot of posts out there. I've gained a lot of followers on X. Hopefully those have been appreciated. I want to do a more longer format to be able to kind of play out a little bit more precisely or at length some of the concepts here. I don't pretend to be an expert either. I don't know that I'm going to solve anything or convince anyone of anything, but I think that I'll put some stuff out there that's important, or at least be able to discuss things. I think it's critically important that we talk about things, and I think we should be allowed to talk about things. I think that's absolutely vital. Okay. That's number one. All right. I think you know where I'm going with that. Number two, I have family in Israel. My wife's Israeli. Literally the family's been in the bomb shelters, for a while now, and it's extremely scary. I am part Jewish ancestrally through, on my dad's side, we think Sephardic Jews from Spain, everything like that. A lot of I've been, friends with Jewish people for a long, long time. Almost married a Jewish woman from a very prominent Jewish family here in America. I may or may not tell that story at some point. There's sort of something that has been in the news recently, somewhat related. I may talk about that. I don't know. That's a whole different other thing. Part of my family on my wife's side is Jewish in Tel Aviv and stuff like that. And so my best friend in law school was Jewish, on and on and on. I hate even having to talk about that. Like I have to prove the bona fides or whatever like that. But it's been a lot of crazy stuff going on out there, and different, people have been casting aspersions, in my opinion, woke right and anti this and different things. And there's been different things. And we're going to try to sort through a lot of that at a very high level. And again, I'm not here to solve anything. I don't think I can solve anything, but, so I myself am Christian, raised Catholic. And it's sort of an interesting background in that. Again, half Hispanic, half a mix of English, Irish, German, all kinds of different things, whatever like that. And somewhat relevant because I'll say this. It's like my wife sometimes say, "Oh, you can't understand." I'm like, well, listen, America's gone through a civil war where at that time it was brother versus brother, friend versus friend, neighbor versus neighbor, Hatfield McCoys, all that type of stuff. 10% of the population died. More were impacted with all kinds of stuff and economies and everything like that. The nation was almost ripped apart, and we figured it out, right? At some way, you have to figure it out and be able to move forward. And myself, I'm pretty sure that I'm not 100%, not claiming anything, but I'm pretty sure that both sides of my family were in the Battle of the Alamo on either side, on either side. Okay. So imagine that. I think my mom would have qualified for like the Daughters of Texas or something like that. So what I'm saying is I it's not about I'm special. It's about metaphorically. I think that that's not an unusual experience for people in America. Like we're a mix of all. I mean, you know what I mean. We're a land of immigrants. We're a mix of all kinds of different things. So, like I said, like ancestrally, I'm Jewish. A part of my family is Jewish, but I'm Catholic and stuff like that. I'm Hispanic and I'm Anglo. Am I supposed to not like myself? You know what I mean? Like where am I supposed? Like it's just. And I think a lot of people, Hodge Twins talks about that, and other people talk about that. Cyrus has talked about that. I mean, so I think all these groups and these definitions. I don't think are super helpful for us sometimes in this oppressed oppressor and these kinds of framework. I've never thought of myself as like I'm proud of my heritage, of course, and everything like that. But I've never thought of I mean, I've had all kinds of racist stuff thrown at me. Certainly, I believe I've been canceled. Okay, I've had all kinds of very negative political stuff thrown at me. Gone through the fire. Even now on this topic, like I've been in contact with and pretty cool with a lot of people that are kind of maybe more pro-war, right? And some that are Jewish, right, on X, and these are very powerful, very high-ranking people. And I've kind of spoke my mind a little bit. I could have zipped it. Maybe that would have helped my career at some point or whatever like that. But I feel like I'm not a sellout. And I'm not saying there's anything to sell out, but I mean, I feel like it's important to talk about things and speak the truth and be able to have a discussion on it. So that's where I'm coming from. I could say more, but I can't say more because I can only speak for myself, right? I'm not going to speak for my wife. I'm not going to speak for my family. I'm not speaking for anybody else. And when I talk to them over there, it's like, hey, are you okay? Are you in the shelter? I mean, and it's very, very brief. I'm like kind of walking by, my wife's talking, stuff like that. I mean, that's what it is. So I speak for myself, nobody else. And that's important. Okay. With those things out of the way, and I'll do my best here to be, I don't have an agenda. I have my point of view. I guess in fairness, my agenda is I'm pro-peace. I'm with the Pope on this. I'm with Trump I'm with a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying I speak for Trump. I certainly don't. Trump speaks for himself, but I'm pro-peace. But I'm also realistic. And I think, and all I've been trying to do is kind of pump the brakes a little bit for the people that have seemed like they're rushing us to war, saying things like, oh, this is easy. We got them on the ropes, 90% chance of success. This is our chance. Once in a lifetime. It's like, okay, wait, regime change hasn't worked out so great for us. Name me a protracted war since Vietnam that's worked out really great for us. Iraq war didn't work out so great. Afghanistan didn't work out so great. Bosnia didn't work out so great. Vietnam didn't work out so great. We had a great history of these things. Libya didn't work out so great. That's a little bit of a different thing. So Syria, we don't know. You know what I mean? And I have friends, and we all probably know people. I'm from Texas and from San Antonio, military city, stuff like that. But I have friends that, are I'm not going to name their names or invoke, whatever, but, served in, went to school at Johns Hopkins, know a lot of military people, Texas, a lot of military people, and some people that were even in famous pictures up in Kandahar Ridge, stuff like that. And these people, they come home and some are pretty jacked up, have divorces, have PTSD, who knows? There's family issues. There's different things that happen. Some are jacked up on painkillers or whatever. Can't get a job. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I think we have to be really cautious. And it's a whole Ukraine thing. Think about that. I don't know what the real number is, 300 billion, whatever. So I kind of didn't do what I said I was going to do. So let me try to do that right now. So I'm saying that as a preface of where I'm coming from so that I can be honest and authentic to you, the viewer out there. And you can make your own assessment of that where I'm coming from. I myself did not serve. I have people in my family that did serve. I've been to Israel myself. I've seen it up close and personal. I'm not saying I've taken 10 trips or I've lived there for years, or I'm not saying that, but at least I have some knowledge. I myself have been a supporter from here, from America, of Bibi Netanyahu, Danny Danon, whatever, for a long time. Member, of the not a member, of course, not, but I mean a supporter of the coup party. But I've had my questions recently, and we'll get into that. But where I'm coming from right now, as of overnight here at 1:45 a.m. East Coast time, 6/18/2025. Is I think, also, JD, an undergrad from Berkeley, lifelong conservative, lifelong, in conservative movement, political consultant, active, all that type of stuff, super genius, MBA with honors from Johns Hopkins, Master in Communications 4.0, A plus in 80% of my classes from Hopkins, etc. Political expert, media expert, all the rest. So I know a lot of these people in the media, at least at a distance. I know I'm sort of on the outer ring of some of these different power circles and stuff like that. I've exchanged emails a long time ago with Kayleigh McEnany, Tucker Carlson, etc. I went to 2 Republican national conventions. I met Henry Kissinger, met Donald Trump. It's etc. I mean, there's a lot of, again, and that doesn't, that and $10 would probably buy me a cup of coffee, whatever. But I know a few things. I know enough to have seen. I've met many billionaires. I've had, probably more billionaires and super high net worth people that if you're not in that club, used to be a VC in Silicon Valley, know the Silicon Valley, know that, some of the whole tech bro culture. Used to work on Page Mill Road for the top law firm there at the time, Wilson Sons Rosati, Mario Rosati, the number one dude in VC at that time. So again, I've been there. I've seen it. Okay. That leads me to this. Also, chat's open. You can say what you want. Keep it legit and clean and all that type of stuff. Headline for me, where I'm at right now, is I'm very cautious about involvement of the U.S. Sounds like, if we believe the reports, and well, that's the other thing I'll say. Another disclaimer. I don't have any intel. I'm not a military expert. I'm not a foreign policy expert. I don't have the information. I don't have the intel. I'm not in communication with any people. I'm not doing reporting. I don't have sources, any of that type of stuff. Okay. So, this is armchair quarterbacking. All right. Fair enough. I think that, and apologizing because sometimes I'm going to take pauses. I want to be deliberate with this. I'm not here to just forget clicks and views and everything. Obviously, I am, but I mean, not like anyone that puts out a video wants it to do well, of course. But I mean, like I'm not going to, we're not going to be sensational. There's no shock jock. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. And that if you see my videos, you know how I do it. I keep it real. I try to. If I'm having fun doing a bit or something like that, then that'll be obvious too. Obviously, I'm also an entertainer. Okay. Anyway, it sounds like Israel did their own thing. They did what they thought they needed to do, or whatever. From what I understand, there's some political issues over there. I'm not saying it's connected or anything like that, but I think they just had a vote. And I think he won. The coalition held together by 2 votes. So, I mean, again, they have their internal discussions, just like we have our internal discussions. We have a very narrow majority in Congress, and I think there's a narrow majority of what's going on over there. So there's always different things, and that's where I caution people like, oh, you can't criticize it. It's like, bro, they criticize them. You know what I mean? Like everything and any government, any leader can be criticized. Okay, let's just start with that. So they did what they wanted to. They did what they thought they had to do. Okay, fine. They've had stuff going on in Gaza, a little bit Lebanon, the stuff with the Houthis. We helped out with the whole Yemen thing, Syria, and now Iran. Now, the argument is that, listen, Iran's been funding all this type of stuff. This has been going on since 1979. It's gotten serious. And we'll get to that. Okay. But now, what should the U.S. do? A lot of people, should we go in? Should we go on? I mean, we had Lindsey Graham, Senator Graham, I think the tweet, I may be wrong, was, game on. Like, whoa. Like, what, it's like, what, bro, like, what? No, that's whack, bro. What are you talking about? Um, and the dude was over in you know meeting with Zelensky in Ukraine and stuff like that. And so with some other senators too. I think Blumenthal and Joni Ernst. I don't know. I can't. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, should we be involved? Should we get involved? And then it went from, hey, we need to stop the nuclear thing to regime change. Wait a minute. And we need the U.S. for regime change and stuff. Wait a minute. Now, there's been a lot of criticism about what's going on in Gaza. Even people like Piers Morgan and others have moved on over here. And I think that we'll get to that. And again, I can't go too long, so I got to wake up and drive in the morning and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm going to try to handle this as much as I can here. Guessing ballpark, it's at 16-minute mark now. I always talk a lot, so I can't even make a promise to myself on that. But let's try for like maybe 45 minutes ish, plus or minus. Okay, I think that's reasonable. So should we be involved? If we're involved, how should we be involved? Now, a lot of times we get involved. Afghanistan, we did our thing, and then we were there in 20 years. Iraq, aren't we still over there somehow? Or I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, it's craziness. Our vice president, J.D. Vance, served over there in Iraq. So I think he has a point of view. Now, he's been an amazing vice president. I mean, very smart. I think pro-MAGA. I think against the war stuff. But I mean, he's very, very loyal. I think he definitely follows a chain of command. I mean, you couldn't. I was super pro J.D. Vance. I don't think you could have asked for a better vice president, to be honest with you. Trump, art of the deal, a master negotiator. So you have to be able to read through the lines. Can I tell you what Trump's? No, I can't tell you what Trump's going to do. What I think is, here's what I think. I follow kind of a middle line here, and I've been talking to people, maybe influencing some people. I don't know. Myself, Charlie Kirk, J.D. Vance, Batya Unger. Not speaking for anything else, but it's my opinion. I think we're kind of in that zone, in that sort of thread in the needle kind of zone. And we'll get to all that in a second. I'm just laying this out because I want to be very upfront with you, the audience, before I get into anything. I'm not trying to spin anybody. Or at least I want to be transparent. Obviously, I have my point of view, and I'm persuasive, whatever. But anyway, so which is to say, we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Absolutely. But we're really, we don't want to do the war thing, dude. Now, is there a case, as I've said, and I don't even know if I can read all my tweets because it's very extensive with some stuff, where I was kind of answering some of these tech bros and some of the power titans out there, trying to recalibrate and have a discussion and whatever, is if we're going to do something, we're not signing up for regime change. If we're going to do something, it's got to be really targeted and really calibrated and really short. So maybe it's the bunker buster. Maybe it's I don't know. It's like we're doing this one thing, two things, three things, whatever it is. It's a week. It's 3 days. It's I don't know. I think Trump is giving Iran a chance to come to the negotiating table again. He said that, we did it for 60 days. They didn't do anything. Even Scott Ritter was saying, hey, and my paraphrase, Iran's getting a little squirrely here. They're kind of not following the protocol. We're not quite sure. And I think things got kind of worse when President Obama did the nuclear deal, and they had the $150 billion or whatever it was, the pallets of cash that laid over there, kind of fueled them up with monies to be able to fund some of these proxies and stuff like that. Also, like Biden with the green energy stuff, and shutting down supply side inflation was able to raise the price of oil. And what does that do? That funds them over there. So, a lot of these things can be solved economically, as President Trump has shown with the tariffs and some of the other, things that Trump has done. He's been very smart with that kind of fiscal diplomacy, if you will. And I think we're on the age and on the cusp of a lot of technological changes, whether it's robotics and drones and AI and stuff like that, where it's going to change not just the face of business, but also the face of warfare. And you got people like great patriots like JT Lonsdale and others that are, Palmer Luckey and Peter Thiel, and, Palantir and Andrew Earl and all this type of stuff. And I know some people have their concerns with those, but I mean, they're, you have to have capability. I mean, the game continually changes. If you're going to have security, you have to have the capability and stuff like that, right? So, so we're on this eve. We're here overnight. A lot of people are staying up because they're thinking something could happen, and something could happen. The carrier's moving over there. I think one of the carrier fleets from the, I want to say the Nimitz or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, from the Pacific. And so it's like, wait a minute. So what, do we not have coverage for Taiwan? It's all coming. And that's the other thing. We're policing the world, again, and it's the whole NATO conversation, Ukraine, everything like that. And is that where we need to be? So are we going to get sucked into a war here? Are we going to have to pay for this with lives and treasure? Is it going to be, is this worth it? Are we going to have a discussion? What about Congress and war powers and Congressman Ro Kahana and I think Thomas Massey? I hope I pronounced that right, Ro. I hope. Are saying, hey, we need a vote on this, and that's that's been going on for a long time. That kind of discussion. So yeah. Now, where I push back, and I don't know if I want to get into every little specific thing, we're going to start showing you pages here in a second, is where there's some, maybe pro-involvement, pro-Israel, whatever like that, that might put out there, potentially, that, hey, you can't say anything, and if you say anything, you're anti, or you're being racist, or whatever, whatever it might be. Now, unfortunately, I have seen some in doing some of this in some of these comments and just reading, like, there is some nasty stuff out there. And I'm not making an equivalency, but I've had nasty stuff all my life. You know what I mean? And as a conservative, and then again, maybe it's a little bit different. And I understand. I'm not getting a little bit of a swerve here, but both things can be true at the same time. The Jewish people have been persecuted. We know what happened in World War II and the Holocaust and the horrific history of that. Having been over in Israel, there's definitely, in my opinion, there's definitely a vibe of security. And if you look at how small the country is and what they're surrounded by, or what they have been surrounded by in the past, there's concerns, and we understand that. And particularly after October 7th, and particularly with some of these different things that have happened on college campuses and some of the things that have been said. I mean, I've seen some stuff on I don't want to name any specific name. I don't want to call anyone out, but I mean, on some of these bigger accounts, and like there's some not cool stuff. Okay, some vile stuff, which I condemn. Separate point. One of the things we saw, I don't know who it was, there was basically a revelation that some of the stuff, there's a lot of bots out there, and I think Elon's done a sweep. So again, even JT Lonsdale, right, who is very pro-Israel, I believe he's Jewish, stuff like that. He's a great dude. Was saying, hey, don't get played by the bots, by maybe CCP funded or Russia, who knows? I'm not alleging anything. And and I don't listen to a lot of Alex Jones or anything. I almost never listen. I mean, it's not my. I'm not dissing anybody. It's just not my thing. But I mean, one thing, and he coined the whole info wars thing. So I mean, there's something to that. You have to control your own mind and do your own diligence. That's why I like to look at all kinds of different information, and I like to take a beat, talk to people, reason it out. If you can't, we can never be in a position, whoever you are, where I can't take any criticism. If you say any criticism, if you can't defend your position and talk about it, how good is it? Right? If you can't play by the same rules, so we'll get to that in a second. Just keeping my eye on the time. I hope that makes sense. And sometimes I have to be vague because I do not want to be misconstrued. Again, I love everybody. We're all human beings. Like, I mean, all this group stuff, I just hate it. I really do. I love different, the breadth and diversity of humanity, but we're all humans, dude. We're all individuals. Period. End of story. And as people would criticize some, as they're all for free speech until it's about certain things. And remember, free speech is about allowing things that you don't like. No, we don't need free speech for things that we all agree on and we all, what I mean, for 90-10 issues. We need free speech on that 1090 issue or, whatever, but things need to be discussed. And, we go back in the day and we could see whether it was like, Columbus or some of these other people, Copernicus, I may be getting my history a little bit, people thought the world was flat. People thought that everything, that the universe revolved around the sun. Around the earth. You know what I mean? So, anyway. Okay. It's probably easier to just lay my cards out on the table first, as I've been doing, and then we'll get into the specifics, because I don't have everything all dialed in right to really lay out like a full show like I normally would and everything like that. I think this. I think if I had to guess, I think we're going to get involved. Either one of two things are going to happen. Either a deal is going to be struck and it's going to be a comprehensive deal. I think Trump's on the phone with Russia, China. There's a lot. It's not just us and Iran. Like there's a lot of different factors in here. It's not a simple play. It's not a simple deal. That's why I try to slow the brakes on some of these tech bros or hedge fund bros or New York City, stuff like that. You may be great. You're amazing, super rich in what you do, but I've seen the errors of the game. Dude, I'm a super genius. I'm awesome. I'm polyglot. I'm awesome on a lot. I know where the waters end. I know what I don't know, dude. Thank gosh for that. And I slip up. Dude, I slip up constantly, bro. Daily. We all do. Okay. But the biggest danger is to buy your own hype and is to think you know more than you know, or to not at least ask the questions or not have a process for trying to get to the right answer. Okay. And so I think that either they sit down and what we've seen from the leader of Iran doesn't look promising overnight, but I think there is either a comprehensive deal made now, or it wouldn't surprise me if we do some limited type of deal. Maybe it's the nuclear thing, the bunker buster, whatever that is, fulcrum, whatever that food room. I don't know what it's called. One of those things. I kind of feel like that may be happening, but because Trump is the master negotiator, and I said this, in exchange for that, Trump may get some things that he wants. Maybe movement in Gaza, maybe something with Ukraine, maybe some different things that he wants. Which frankly is the way to do it. Not writing blank checks and we'll do whatever and whatnot. I think Trump is going to angle for getting some things that he wants and try to solve the whole thing. And he kind of said that on Air Force One. I should have teed up my C-SPAN. I didn't have that. I might do that here, so you have to kind of wait with me. And he kind of said that we're going to solve it. It's not going to be a ceasefire. It's going to be a solution of total solution, whatever like that. You have Mossad over there. There were some people that were calling for assassinations. There's definitely are taking out some leadership stuff, and that's a dicey thing, dude. That's a dicey thing, right? We're not, there's definitely international laws. I'm not alleging anything. I'm not saying anyone's doing anything wrong. I'm not getting, whatever. I'm not, that's not my field or anything like that. I'm just, at very, very high levels talking some concepts. However, as I've expressed to these people when it comes to regime change and different things like that, there are certain logistics with these things. If you're Israel and you feel like you're under threat and it's super serious, right? What else are you going to do with Iran? Like, how else are you going to be able to, operate your security directives, if you will? You can't beat Iran straight up militarily on the ground. Air superiority, yes. There's maybe the Samson option, nuclear stuff like that. No, nobody should be using a nuclear weapon, dude. That happens, and heck, who knows where that ends? Nowhere good. I can almost assure you of that. The other thing to think about is, there's the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and I think Iran's sort of in the mix-ish on that. Certainly supported by Russia and China. China gets 80%-ish of their oil from Iran. So you think they're just going to let us roll in there and control that kind of supply and stuff like that? So there's a lot of different complicated things here. Pakistan has nukes, North Korea has nukes, and so who's to say they don't just throw something Iran's way and stuff like that? So it's just not, the answer is that, well, we have nukes and stuff. And there are some people that would say out there, on the other hand, like, oh, we should just nuke Iran. Like, are you? And I'm not saying that's a widespread thing, but I've seen some potential suggestions here and there. Yeah, I'm looking at through. We're probably going to go an hour. I knew it. Okay, but I can't go much longer than that. That's insane. That's crazy talk, in my opinion. Okay, but put yourself in Israel's shoes. They feel like, hey, October 7th was a huge tragedy, extremely serious. They've had problems with Hamas, problems with Hezbollah, problems with the Houthis. They think they're backed by Iran. I'm not saying they're not. Again, I don't have any intel, whatever. I take it, everyone, take it at its word, whatever. And then they have this, where Iran will say, death to Israel, death to America. That's not great. That's terrible. So what do you do? Right? What do you do? That's the thing. And I think, Bibi, they have a leader. That's a tough dude. That's a tough dude, and I got a lot of respect for them. Again, politically, I don't know where it is right now, but I'm thankful that we have Bibi and Danny Danon and President Trump in there, because I think we have the right leadership to hopefully land the plane here. I'm not saying it's all going to work out. I hope it does. I pray that it does. But I think we have leadership that's strong, that can figure it out, that has credibility. Okay, so I think if I have to guess, I think something's going to happen. Limited, either a deal gets done right now, comprehensive, in cooperation, coalition with France, England, Germany, Russia, China, whatever like that, where, the world the powers come together and figure it out, or limited option, hopefully, and significantly degrade, the nuclear stuff, and they've already targeted some leadership. And then let's see what happens with the Iranian people. There was a green revolution, stuff like that. And I'm no Iranian expert or anything like that. We should have supported the green revolution before and stuff, in my opinion. But I don't know. I mean, again, logistically, it's tough. I mean, you got as we'll see with Tucker Carlson, and Ted Cruz, you have a population of like 92 million over there. Now, it's no easy deal. And you have Turkey, which has like probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, force over there. You can't just, we can't just do an Iraq thing and listen, we spent a lot of money, munitions, all kinds of stuff in Ukraine. I think I've read something before where we were at 155 millimeter howitzer shells and stuff like that. So it's not like you can't be everywhere and all. And then let's say we do something in Iran and we get some protracted thing, and we had this thing going on in Ukraine. What happens if China moves on Taiwan? What happens then? You know what I mean? Like, things can spiral out of control. Now, am I doom and gloom and, oh my gosh, this is going to be World War III? I don't think so. Usually in life, and it's the physics principle that status quo, inertia kind of wins out usually, right? I think that we have regional players there that are really up and coming, whether it's UAE, Qatar. We'll talk about Qatar, Saudi. That I think they look at the UAE model, the Dubai model, and Abu Dhabi and the UAE, and they're doing amazing. And it's like people just want to get along, extend the Abraham Accords, things like that. So President Trump had some very hard decisions. I think Bibi and that administration is maybe a little more hawkish. I'm not saying they're right or wrong, just in terms of where they're at versus us. And a lot of times, and Bacha talked about this too, that a lot of times our even though we're great allies, a lot of times our interests will align. Sometimes there's different interests, two different countries. We may see things in a different way, Who knows? Maybe they don't approve of what we're doing in immigration. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up, right? I'm just saying that, like, it's okay to have they're different countries. But in terms of the ground rules of the rest of this podcast and just in, talking discussion going on. Sorry about the focus of a cinema lens, and so it kind of does soft pulls and goes in and out sometimes. It's sort of artistic or whatever. It's okay to have a discussion on these things. And as some people have said, and I don't want to get into all the different permutations, critique of a policy is not necessarily critique of that nation, and it's definitely not critique of a people, and etc. You know what I mean? Like, people, how many countries and how many people, including a lot of these folks, whether it's on H-1B visas, or crypto or whatever, critique our policy. Is that anti-American? Is that anti whatever? You know what I mean? Like, stop. Like it's okay. But obviously there are some. Do we still have a ways to go on everything? Sure, of course we do. Is there still, discrimination, racism, and ugly, vile stuff out there? Yeah, we just keep working on it. But I just believe in glass half empty, glass half full. Just focus on just, I don't know. I'm not going to solve all that. I think you understand where I'm going, getting from that. Stay on the issue, stay focused, know what you know. Anyway, I don't know. I can't, it's too late. I can't do that justice and, everything. I think you understand where I'm coming from in that. And again, I may make a mistake. I apologize ahead of time. Peace, love, opportunity, love everyone. And there we go. Okay. Now let's get into this stuff. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's either something solved now, or there's going to be some limited strike, and then we go from there. And what I think that Trump should do in exchange for that is get the deals that he wants in regards to Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, maybe more. I think that's what you got to do. All right. Now, and then there's a Tucker Carlson thing. Why don't we start with that? Because I think that's fair enough. Now, I'm not going to be able to play this down here, and Tucker's got the clip, whatever, and then I'm going to get into the tech bros, and we're going to roll through it in Trump and everything like that, and we'll try to wind it down here and land the plane. All right. So let's see. This is on Tucker now. He had a full interview, full sit down with Senator Cruz, and he I'm just going to be able to play little clips of this again with the sound off, but there is subtitles on there. And this is on the Tucker Carlson network on on X, on Twitter. And the full interview is going to drop tomorrow. Man, Cruz, I don't think he looked that great. But I mean, I think some people didn't. I mean, I think you saw like a Rorschach test almost. You saw what you wanted to see, kind of deal. I understand where both of them are coming. I think it's very interesting. So let's try this right here. Now, this is on War with Iran, and people are like, oh, this is gotcha. This is trivia. But they had no problem when Douglas Murray was pulling that on Dave Smith. But this is different. This is a different situation, and I'll explain why I believe that is a different situation. Okay. Let me see. And he basically here. So let's go here. And again, I'm going to be very limited with this. So, okay. Now, what happens here is he asked him, let me make sure I turn this off. Hey, like, how many people live in Iran? I don't know. The population? Yeah, I don't know. And so he doesn't know. And so they go back and forth. You get the gist of it. Okay. And one of the things that, and it was pretty revealing. It's a short clip. You go check it out yourself. I got to be very, very, very limited in what I play there. And it was people like, oh, it's gotcha. And then he asked about the ethnic mix and this and that, whatever. Oh, I don't know. And they went back and forth, about a minute and a half clip. But here's what I said and why I don't think that it's gotcha. And I said this on someone that's pretty pro-Israel, in my opinion, page. Is it's different than this debate trap and whatever these little, debate games they play. In that he's a sitting U.S. senator. I don't know if he's on armed services on one of these committees, one of these big things, but here he is, talking about war with Iran, and you don't know. This isn't like, hey, what's the capital of this province? This is basic logistics and facts. In other words, if you're asking for regime change, is this group enough to out this group? You know what I mean? Like when we talk about Ukraine, well, how many Russian speakers are in there? How many Ukrainian speakers in there? What are the different provinces? What are the, you have to have how many people are in there? Like, hey, guess what? Russia has 3 times as many people as Ukraine. Kind of doesn't seem like an even matchup. You know what I mean? That's just common sense. So if you have a population of 7-8 million in Israel going up against 92 million, in Iran, from Iran, in Iran, that's not great odds. You know what I'm saying? On it being, you can't, so by itself, everything else being equal. So, having some idea on that, like in Syria, like, hey, you have this many Kurds and you have this many Shia and Sunni, you have to kind of have a lay of the land. Lebanon, it's all about 1/3, 1/3 Sunni, 1/3 Shia, 1/3 Christian, you have to kind of have some idea of where you're coming from. Logistically, if you're trying to push this. So I don't think that was gotcha at all. I'm not saying it was the most, just in that, listen, Cruz is busy. Senator Cruz, is busy. A lot of different things that he has going on. But, I think that Ted Cruz, a Harvard trained lawyer, is a very smart dude. He can handle himself. I'm looking forward to hearing the whole podcast when it comes out tomorrow and stuff like that. That's a viral clip though, dude. And I think that gives pause. I mean, if it gives pause to the people, it's like the game on thing from Lindsey Graham. It's like, wait, slow your roll, bro. Slow your roll, bro. You're not prepped up. It's not that you have to be a Jeopardy master and be able to go on all that, but it's like you have to have some kind of, before you start talking about, hey, we're gonna roll into China, we're gonna roll into, whatever. We're not. I'm just, it's what. Excuse me. Let me take that back. Whatever you propose, you have to have some kind of plan for it. Hey, I'm gonna go to Mars to SpaceX. Okay, how are you gonna do it? When you're gonna go? You have to have the launch. You have windows, stuff like Elon was talking about. Like, so that it just showed I'm not saying it's the end all be all gotcha, but I think that it wasn't the level of preparation and seriousness that I think we would have liked to have seen in that situation. It wasn't the best moment for Senator Cruz, but I don't think it was the end all be all either. And I'm sure they both had their moments. And now Cruz is going out and he's saying his thing, and that's fine. It's so good. That's fine. People have their criticisms of Tucker. We're going to get to that. Laura Loomer got some receipts. We're going to talk about that. Okay. And I'm going to go through those things in rapid fire. So I think that was it. Now Tucker dropped another one, just in case you think that was a one-off. Tucker dropped another one. Now this was on foreign spying in the U.S. And this is one where I get where they're both coming from too, honestly. So I can probably play a little more of this one, and it has subtitles as well. Let's check this out. And he's talking about Mossad. Does Mossad, that's Israel's intel agency. Why is it so hard to say it's not okay for foreign governments to spy on our president? And that, God, and this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of politicians that are a little afraid to criticize Israel. Now, I see both sides on that. Like, I mean, it's did you see Trump going hard on England? I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I think, and again, I want to be really careful how I put this. I'm not picking on Israel or anything like that. I think that, I honestly, I think it's more, and people are saying the same thing about Tucker and Qatar. I think it's less about any kind of specific country. I think that it's more of fun. See, and I think people can get into stupid conspiracies and stuff like that. I think it's more of a function of, and we've seen this. What do you think the deep state, and again, different subject, but when people talk about the deep state and we talk about the uniparty and stuff like that, I think it's more of a function of donor class and elitism versus the population, stuff like that. And I think that I may be saying this all totally wrong, and I do apologize on that, and I can reserve the right to revise and extend. But the point is that where Tucker's coming from is you should be able to criticize. Now, what Cruz is saying, I'm jumping ahead, is like, look, they all do it. We do it to them, they do it to us, and I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that's right. But my position is simple. Every country should be treated the same. If you're an ally, we'll treat you the same way as all the other allies, unless you're the absolute best ally. I don't know if we like Trump's got the gold card, the America gold card or something like that. In other words, if you're tearing, it's like the tariffs. You tariff us, we'll tariff you. You know what I mean? I think every country should be able to be criticized. I think we should be able to talk about every country and stuff like that. If you want to be, here's the thing: if you want to be treated the same, then you have to act the same. If you want to be treated the same, you have to let people treat you the same, stuff like that. And so I think it's an evolution. I think it's kind of like some things may have made sense before or whatever. Maybe people can say that about affirmative action or whatever. I don't know. Or just different things. But things. I'm not saying that's the one issue, but things evolve and things change. And at 2025, we may need to. Maybe Israel needs some adjustments. Maybe we need some adjustments. Maybe we need to adjust things with NATO. Maybe we need to adjust things with Canada. Whatever. It's okay to have those kinds of discussions. Things do evolve and change. Nothing stays the same, right? Here's the thing on the Mossad thing. I'll let this speak for itself, and we'll get into that. I will also say that unfortunately on the internet, there's a lot of times, and again, in the news itself will go for sensational stuff, having been in the media, and also there's the conspiracy theories, and it seems like on some of these longer podcasts, they're always going to talk about spiritual stuff. They're always going to talk about UFOs. They're always going to talk about conspiracies and JFKs. And it's like, okay, come on. You know what I mean? Like how many times, okay, yeah, they should release all the Epstein stuff and all that and all the JFK files and whatever, in my opinion. But at the same time, I can't hear about every single, just like I can't do the whole, we have a lot of different things here. I can't stick on certain subjects every single day. If that's what you want to talk about, that's okay. I just can't do that, dude. I can't do that, right? All right, so here's Tucker. Let me turn the sound off. Okay, they share a lot. Why don't they share all their intelligence? I don't know. We share a lot. It's a close alliance. Okay. And so they go back and forth, right? And then it's a lot of word games here. And then at the very end, Tucker's like, hey, is it okay if they spy on us? We want to know. I'm not mad at you. Why can't you say that you shouldn't spy on us? Kind of deal. That's what Tucker's saying. And Cruz won't go there. Now, maybe it's a word game. Maybe it's whatever. Maybe you don't want to piss off an ally. Whatever. Maybe there's things you turn a blind eye. They do it to us. We do it to them. But what Tucker should have done, again, he's not a lawyer and stuff like that. And I'm not licensed for, not practicing no attorney client. What Tucker should have done. And when I was in California, I did corporate stuff. I did a little bit of a class action my second summer and stuff like that. But the trial people, what he should have done is he should have set up like Canada or England or some other examples first, get them on record saying, oh yeah, they shouldn't do that, or not. Then he's consistent, whatever. And then you go to whatever and then see if there's a difference. That's what he should have done if you really wanted to try to get that moment. But that's fine. I think, and I think Cruz's point is like, listen, they all do it. We all do it you've got to grow up. This is statecraft. This is, modern stuff like that. I didn't feel like that was, you put them both together. It's kind of like whatever, but I don't think it's like super gotcha, but I do think that there was the not fully prepared thing on the first one on the Iran thing, and there's maybe some disconnect, like there was with COVID, like there was with a whole a whole range of different things versus the base and stuff like that. Doge cuts, all kinds of stuff, immigration at first, all kinds of different things. And I say, and then when I mean based on both sides. So I think that free speech is free speech, and nothing and no one should be off limits, is what I'm saying. Particularly if you're in any leadership capacity or state, country to country, leaders and stuff like that. You should be able to talk about these things and hash it out. The one thing I will say again about Netanyahu is, I mean, he's like Trump, he's a person on the scene. He gets there. He's seen him down at these different sites. He's been doing a lot of different podcasts. He's been putting out a lot of different things. He had an interview with Brett Baer, Danny Danon's out there, whatever. And you got to respect it. I do respect it. Okay, so that's cool. So, wherever you feel on, let me pull up the next thing. Okay, so that's Tucker Carlson. I don't know if this is appropriate. But I put this up on. I don't know why I thought about it. I felt like things were getting like too heavy and stuff. And I grew up in like with pro wrestling in the golden era and stuff like that. And I put this up on my. I'll just show this. I won't be able to play any of this. But I put this up on my LinkedIn and stuff and posted just as a little comic relief type of deal and just lighten the mood a little bit. Not meaning anything. There's no meaning to it. There's no anything to it. It's just, I remember watching this and everything like that. And I wasn't even a Sergeant Slaughter fan, but I just that era, Nikita Koloff and all the silly stuff and Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. And you had, I remember that, Sergeant Slaughter versus the Iron Sheik in the boot camp match and stuff like that. It was just classic. I mean, just absolute classic and stuff. Just wow, those two, they really went at it, and it was that's worth watching, worth skimming if you're a wrestling fan and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting, so I threw that out there as a little comic relief. So that was interesting. Okay, now we move on from there. And I think let's get to this, because I think this is the heart of something right here. And I will also say I think we're going to get to, I'm hopeful that we're going to get to a good place on all of this, meaning that, people can talk about different things. Hey, what's Qatar doing? Hey, APEC. Hey, we can talk about this. And hey, how do we join? Hey, what's the right policy? And whatever. You know what I mean? Like, how do we, peace, America first? What is America first? What is peace through strength? What is, all this type of stuff. Let's get it all on the table. Let's talk about everything. What do we do in Gaza? What do we do with all of this? Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. I think we can weave it down. Not easy. Trump, Vance, Rubio, Witkoff, they got a lot on their plate. Not easy. But let's get to some data here. And it can all go to heck in a handbasket, and hopefully it doesn't. Nobody wants that. Look at this. Rich Bears, the People's Pundit, pretty accurate pollster. Okay, and other people have been, there's other polls that have been out there, and you saw some stuff that the Republican, 80%, that's this mess of Republicans like this, and they support Israel, this and that. Having been in politics and being an expert in politics, I mean, you can get a poll, to say almost, there's some flexibility in what these polls are going to, I'm not saying that they're not done right or not fake, but a lot of it is, how do you ask the question? Who do you ask the question? What's your sample size? Who, all this type of stuff. How's it weighted? Republicans, Democrats, everything like that, right? So what's interesting on this is, because I kept saying, it's like, I don't think so. Charlie Kirk, I'll probably go to his page later, did a poll. And look at the time. Like, yeah, I know how this is going to go. I'm going to go an hour and a half. I knew it. So I didn't know it, but I kind of knew it. Not a bad rule with me is whatever time I say it's going to be probably 2x it. Sometimes that happens. Now, if I have to be in a certain, like, hey, John, you have 30 seconds or whatever, then I can do that. But there's just a lot to talk about here. Obviously, this has been going on for a long time. And so anyway, and I'm trying to be cautious and do everything right and not, not offend anyone and all that type of stuff. And not as easy. But anyway, and I'm like, I was always like a little skeptical with something. So Charlie Kirk did a poll. Charlie Kirk did a poll. I think Charlie was kind of trying to figure out where things were at, you know what I mean? Because Charlie Kirk is, 5 million people on his X. He's very, Turning Point USA, super successful. But his base is very much the MAGA base. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, not 100%, but let's say 85, 90% plus, right? Whereas maybe the MAGA makes up 60, 70, I don't know, whatever percentage continues to evolve of the GOP base. So he's significantly higher than that, if that makes sense. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. So I'm like, So Charlie Kirk did a poll of whether we should go to war. And this is a couple days ago when people were like, yeah, kind of more gung-ho. 90% out of 500,000 said no. Now, okay, self-selected poll, I get it, but that's like 500,000 people, players. That's not a small number. And after that, Charlie goes on like, hey, I don't think we should, and I'm not saying like he didn't have a decision before that. I don't know. I didn't watch it. That was the order that I saw it. So no diss on you, Charlie. I don't know, but that's the order that I saw it. Okay. In my opinion, not allege anything. But if you dive into this, and we're going to dive into this, which Rich Bears did a poll, or YouGov actually, but Rich Bears put this up because you kept seeing this 60% say no, 60% say no. That the latest poll YouGov conducted, 60% say no. Okay, now that's like, okay, that's over a majority. But do you think maybe it's a little bit close? It's not that close, players, because that's a little bit of a misnomer. What did I tell you about the polls, right? Because when you dive into that, all U.S. adult citizens, 60% say no. Got it. 24% are not sure. Only 16% say yes. And that's today, players. Okay, so what does that mean? 84% say no or we are not sure. So hold on, players. If you're Trump, you're part of the MAGA coalition, if you're, and again, let's look at Republicans. Okay, Republicans are a little bit more for it. There's still only 23% of Republicans players that are saying, yeah, let's go. Lindsay, let's go. No. The American people are nowhere near there. We're nowhere close to that, players. So not only do you have military risk, you have political risk, significant political risk. And as I would say, and you'll see something, I may dive into that, so many different comments and stuff, but I don't know if we're going to get all, but that I've been trying to caution some of these people. Hey, we have this kind of margin in Congress. We got midterms coming up next year where traditionally you're going to lose some seats and stuff like that. I mean, if you don't want this, I mean, we saw this with the Iraq War. George Bush won the Iraq War, and the economy and the agenda got totally stalled. We're going to have, Social Security reform, all kinds of. Dude, I could have been sitting on. A lot of us could have been sitting on a huge retirement fund based upon, Social Security being, our Social Security being an index fund instead of this lockbox that's going to run out of money, bro. With the way they do it now, I think Trump or someone called it, whatever. Well, I'll refer to what he said. It's like the pay-as-you-go type of deal, dude. And it's not like it's, they use it for general funding a lot of times, I believe. So it's just not, we could have had that fixed a long time ago. Everyone could have had their own retirement accounts. It could have been as an option. It could have been amazing. But because we went to Iraq, all that stuff got stalled out. So this is really serious. So one of the things I caution these VCs is like, think like a VC. If this is your issue, you're going to go all in this issue. Are you sure this is worth it? Maybe it is. I'm not saying it's not. But it's not wrong or anti-Semitic or anything like that to say, make the case in public and define the scope of engagement up front. We don't want a rolling, never-ending blank check, players. Okay? That shouldn't be hard. And when people are sitting here like doing the cheerleading, I don't want cheerleading to war, bro. Yeah, we don't want that, Okay. So I thought that was very, very revealing. Now, let me see if I can pull up, because I just on it. Let me see if I can pull up the Charlie Kirk poll, just so you can see what I'm talking about. I mean, he's posts so much, which, he's way even more than me. So, I mean, it's probably buried in his page down there somewhere, but let me see if I can find that to show you that. There's something else I want to show from his stuff anyway. Charlie, okay, so he's doing stuff here. Okay. Yeah, okay, this is important. We'll show this along the way. Why not? So Charlie, you can see this is 5 hours ago. So Trump said that, Iran shouldn't get nukes, 100%. And he's been saying it for a decade. He's right. I've seen the clip, 100% right. Okay. Okay. Very consistent. Right. But it's false to say he ever wanted regime change. In fact, it's the opposite. Never wanted forcible removal of a leader of a country ever. And there you go. And that's the thread in the needle. That's where it's at. Again, myself, Charlie Kirk, Bacha Unger, probably Trump, JD Vance. I don't know. Trump, we'll see. I think we'll see. I think we're on the same page in terms of where we're at on this. It's a tough thread in the needle. It's a nuance. It's a fine line. That's why that's why I waited a beat, to kind of gather some information. I saw something. I was like, oh, okay, what BB saying makes sense. Okay, what Danny Donan saying makes sense. Okay, Tucker said something here. Okay, this other Charlie Kirk said something here. You know what I mean? Like, there's different things that are out there. JD Vance said this. Okay, you know what I mean? Like Bill Ackman. I mean, whatever. I look at a lot of different things. Sean McGuire had a formulation that was interesting. So, I look at a lot of different stuff out there and try to figure it out. I have my own position, but again, you have to understand what you don't know. Do I have the intel? Do I know what's going on? Do I know what level of uranium? I have no clue, bro. And obviously that matters. BB's right. I mean, you think his intel is better than mine? It's a million times better. You have to respect the process and we elect these people, and then, they're there to do the job. That's their job. So, okay. So now let's go, down here. I don't know how Marjorie Taylor Greene's come out pretty strong. We may or may not get that. Mark Levin's come out very strong on the other end. Okay. So that's fine. This is important. Okay. So, it didn't ensure so Piers Morgan, him going back and forth. So I'll go to this. Insane regime change result in bloody war, killing hundreds of thousands, creating another massive Muslim refugee crisis. Topping a leader is never as easy as you think. It almost always results in further involvement of war because it resists this. It didn't in Syria, Piers Morgan. Okay. And then he's like, 600,000 people died in Syrian civil war after 12 years of fighting alongside 6 million refugees, which permanently remade the polity of Europe, all to get a new leader who might be an upgrade. Regime change wars don't work. We need humility, prudence, and an honest history lesson. I've been saying that. Right now, one of the things I said too is I said, a lot of the people that were like, oh, hey, John, whatever. I'm like, wait a minute. Aren't a lot of people that are all like pumped up on regime change now? Not all of them, but some of them. Aren't you guys the same people that were kind of decrying like how unsafe Europe is getting and how Europe is losing its character and, on all that type of stuff? Some of them. Don't you see that these things are linked and stuff like that? It's like what Trump says about Gaza. How do you go back to Gaza right now? What are we going to do to these people? Where are they going to go right now? Because, there's like infrastructure, water and all kinds of, like a lot of this stuff is like a parking lot. It's flattened. So, those people have to go somewhere, I went to school with a Syrian refugee and stuff like that. I have a video of it up, right? Really cool family and people and stuff like that. I wasn't super, I knew him a little, they knew my wife and I did a podcast with him. I didn't know him that well, but he seemed really nice to me and whatever. And you feel for anyone that has to deal with all that. I'm worried about my family. It's in a bomb shelter right now in Israel. Are you kidding me? And all the other people there too. And the people in Iran. And look, war is heck. It's really bad. And that's why we have to really chill out and pump the brakes when we're talking about war and stuff like that. I believe, Pope Leo has been saying a bunch of things and pushing for peace and stuff like that. Okay. Now I'm trying to, this is going to be way down here. So I got to try to find this. Okay. That was a Prem Thacker. Okay. That was okay. Military. I have to look at this. That's the YouGov thing. We already talked about this. Okay. So people don't want Iran to get it. I think that's where a lot of people are at. They don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Absolutely not. I think that a lot of people are absolutely right there. So this is the challenge, right? And so in a lot of ways, Israel is, you can make the case that Israel is doing the heavy lifting, the dirty work, if you will, for, the Western coalition and the rest of the world, whatever you want to call it. Right. I don't know. But I think, Matt Walsh, Lindsey Graham's calling for a full scale invasion of Iran for the sake of fighting for, this is insane, reckless madness for a warmonger I'll let that stand on its own, who's been in office 30 years and never done a single thing to make Life Better for Americans okay, so I mean that's Matt Walsh. Are we now saying is Matt Walsh part of the woke right? I don't. First of all, the whole I don't even know what the woke right means. I'm sort of annoyed with that term because some people may be throwing that around have just become like a minute ago, not literally obviously, but figuratively become Republicans or voted for Trump or maybe voted Republican for the first time in a long time or the first time in their entire lives. And maybe some of them were actually pushing those woke policies and pushing the COVID things and pushing cancel culture and voted for Obama and maybe voted for Biden and maybe voted for Obama twice. I said some things. It was on thing with BB. A lot of people liked it. So I'll go to that. Probably said it better there. And so it's like, wait a minute. You were cancel culture and part of the real woke stuff not that long ago. And now you're coming over here and saying that we can't talk about certain things and certain people are canceled if they talk about it and we're all fringe. Dude, a majority of the Republican Party, a majority of Americans are not fringe. Sorry, it doesn't work that way by definition. Doesn't work that way. Now, you may not like it, but it definitionally does not work that way. So you got to slow the roll, make the arguments, don't make the accusations. Make the arguments, don't make the insults. Okay? So, let's see here. Crowder, I'm not gonna, Crowder's doing his thing. Let's see. Okay. I mean, it may take me a second here. I mean, there's no other way for me to do this fast, and I may not be able to get to it in any speedy time here. And I do apologize if you can check out his feed, if you will, and that's the other thing is that, Jon Stewart has said some stuff about it and he's kind of like, I think he kind of, Pope Leo right here, competitive society, it seems only strong sports teams leaders. I don't know. He's been saying some different things. But I asked also some stuff. Let's see here. That's immigration stuff. It's somewhere in here. Oh, okay. DHS. He was doing some polls. I wonder if I can I probably could sort by polls, right? I want to go all the way to the top and then lose my train where I'm at here. Well, I didn't go past it here. I won't go much longer because it's either there or it's not. We got to keep going with some other stuff. He just did a conference. I mean, again, Charlie's hustling. He's out there. It's like Scott Presler. He's just always doing stuff. And then, these are scary. I mean, this is scary footage. I mean, it's crazy with a lot of stuff for sure. Oh, here we go. Look at that, players. 489,000 votes. Just simple. Not just a straight up question. Should the U.S. get involved in Israel's war against Iran? Yes or no? Yes or no? This is the MAGA base. Now, maybe self-selected. Maybe people found out about this poll. Who knows? Maybe it was a juiced poll. I don't know. But that's a lot of votes, players. Almost 90% say no. Only just over 10% say yes. I mean, what's up with that, bro? So, I mean, it's like those are massive, massive, massive numbers. So you have to deal with that. Let's go to Fox News here because I'm sure there's breaking news overnight and I don't want to miss the news. I haven't checked it for an hour or so. So let's check this. Whoa. IDF says it struck a key element to Iran nuclear weapons program. Okay. In Tehran area, they had warned people to get out of Tehran and B2 bells. Okay. So there's definitely stuff going on here. So that's what I thought what did I say? This is where I thought things could go. Okay. All right. Surprise. Okay. Ominous threat. Okay. So that's the latest that we have right there from Fox News. All right. So that's interesting. I also want to pull this up here real clear before I get into the specific Twitter accounts and stuff like that. Real clear politics. Let's get this out of here. Oh, geez. A million ads. How do I get out of here? 1 second. Let me try to figure out the ad scene here. I apologize. Maybe I need to refresh here. Okay. I think we're in it. Oh, I don't know. Oh, hold on. I don't know how to get out of that. Oh, we might have to just fumble through this. So here's Lindsey Graham. I'm not going to play it, but I just show the caption. And I don't know what to do with that. Lindsey Graham, our troops are willing to fight in Iran. What? Senator Langford, calls for restraint. We should never rush into war, but we can't just sit back. I think a lot of people are sort of torn like that too, right? So I get it. And that's a tough situation. It's a tough scene for sure. Now let's get into some specific people here. I did put something up. Well, I'll get into that later. Let's get to some other people and I'll get into some of my stuff and then we'll wind it down. Yeah, I think we'll be able to make an hour and a half here. I think we'll be okay on that one. Cut my sleep short a little bit, but I wanted to get to some of this. Bill Ackman. I love Bill. Bill's great. Very smart guy. Talks a lot about different issues. Definitely talks a lot about Harvard, hedge fund stuff, Berkshire Hathaway stuff. And he's been talking a lot about these issues, and I fully get that. Very smart guy, great writer, great dude. Not always right. I'm not always right. We always make mistakes, but I love listening to Bill Ackman and seeing what he writes, and then think about it and stuff like that. Now, this is a long post. I do the same thing, so I'm not going to criticize by any stretch. I will not criticize you, Bill. Here's a summary of his post, of the response to my post. The post saying assisting in destroying and make the following arguments, not our problem, blah, blah, blah. And, and then saying, look, that, and he said something else. I'll refer you over here. Striking, shipping stuff. It's a key area. There's strategic things here. We do have an interest in it. They've been doing this for a long time. Fully get that. Or they've been funding the proxies. And I think I hope I don't get this wrong, but it was some kind of formulation of, hey, if we stop this, it does put a stop to the war because this war's been going on since 1979 or something like that, through the proxies and through these different things. And it's an interesting formulation, right? And that is a very powerful argument. Risk and cost as U.S. assisting, is limited once Israel nearly finished job. But again, some people are making these arguments out here that, hey, it's limited. Maybe it's easier. We're almost there. Maybe, I don't know. We just don't want to get dragged into some longer stuff. And then, sorry. And then he has, geez, oh man, I'm like moving all over. Let's get back here. Sorry. One of these things that he says here is interesting, that, if you want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. And I think, again, the majority of Americans do agree with that, right? Majority of Americans have agreed with that. And that's kind of where we're at. The question is, what do you do about it? And I mean, look, we're not happy all the time with everything that North Korea does, but they have nuclear weapons, Trump, to his massive credit, people don't talk about this that much, was able to settle things down between India and Pakistan, and that could have gotten both of them have nuclear weapons. That could have really got, that's been an ongoing conflict for a minute, on and off. So we always have to find a way to figure it out. And don't forget that that's where Osama bin Laden was. He was in Pakistan. So I believe that's right. And so he's got his more of his take here. And again, he's a very, very good, very prolific writer. Absolutely. Bill's very, very strong in that way. And I lost it again there. So let me see if there's anything else here that I'm missing. I want to try to do everybody justice here. But skimming their arguments. Denuclearize, much lower risk. I agree with that. I don't need to care about it or to conclude that limited at least a few days eliminate Iran's ability. And see, look, I understand what he's saying, but we do care. Of course, we care about Israel. Obviously, I care about Israel. I got family there and stuff like that, and and all the rest that I said. But I think the vast majority of Americans feel the same. They're a great ally and stuff like that. But it's okay to. That's fine. I don't want to harp on this point too much, but it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have a different point of view. And it's like, okay, I may have a best friend and I may want to go to the movies, or I may want to go to the beach, and the friend doesn't want to go. That doesn't mean the friend doesn't care about me. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they got to do something with their wife. Maybe they got to do something with their kids. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's not the best example, but you know what I'm saying? Anyway, and maybe I'm just feeling for Bill. It's like, we're all on the same side. That's all I'm saying. We love you, Bill. You're great. and we love Israel. So, I love everybody, right? I love all the countries. So, I mean, but doesn't mean I love all the regimes, and all the different systems of government and stuff like that. I'm pro-capitalist and pro-USA and all that. Okay. So that's where Bill's coming from. And then, I welcome any arguments to the contrary, as I've yet to find a compelling one. And Bill's a thinker and he's a talker and he'll engage in some stuff. Now, if I kind of start swerving from, I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't want to be too sensitive because different accounts have different sizes. And I have a small account, baby account on Twitter. I'm not anonymous. These people know who I am, but I have a small account. Bill has 1.7 million people. And this guy is probably getting deluged with DMs and comments and everything like that, whatever like that. But he's responded to me sometimes. And he's, and I don't want to go, Bill's been Bill's cool. Bill's been cool with me. I love Bill. But Bill and others, so that maybe more regularly respond to me as well. Like if I can see where if I'm kind of maybe disagreeing with them, like I don't get the comments, I don't get the likes, I don't get and then, it's okay. That's okay, because I think we all need to be straight up. And there's things that they put out that I don't always like, and that's okay too. But that's part of the beauty of X and what Elon did, and what I love about Elon Musk is free speech is having this kind of dialogue. And I'll see sometimes like, I'll evolve my thinking, and okay, maybe I'll calibrate a little bit more here. And then I see sometimes those dudes will evolve and stuff like that. And I think that's very helpful. And so I definitely appreciate that stance by Bill. And I think Bill is not just a great business person, but one of the really good thinkers and thought leaders out there is probably a fair point, I think. So I really like Bill a lot. Okay. Now let's move on to Lonsdale. Joe Lonsdale is one of the co-founders of Palantir. It does 8VC. He's doing the Austin School with Barry Weiss, another staunch supporter of Israel, but very, I don't want to say it that way. Let me change that. Apologize there, Joe. Also a very strong American patriot and everything like that. Just a great guy. I like the swag. I like the thought processes and everything like that. Definitely has how do I say this right? I don't know his whole history, but not afraid to be a little outside the box, not afraid to, I don't want to say be controversial, but stand up for his convictions. But also I find Joe to be pretty reasonable, and Joe's someone that I think they just can take the heat, take the discussion, if you will. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I hope I am. So let's see what he's doing. Okay. So, okay, ABT. Okay. So we're talking about that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So right. So this is what happened here. So there's someone outed let me see if I can dive into this a little bit more. There was some kind of back and forth here where someone said, I don't know what they said. And, I'm a citizen, I'm this and that, whatever. And there's some things that I don't know. Again, there's some regulations and stuff. I don't want to I'm not going to go any lower than that. I don't know all the stuff, but some people are saying some different stuff. But basically, there's claims that there was a bot. And there's a lot of bots on Twitter. And Elon, I know, and the team are doing a lot like that. But it was a very interesting discussion. Okay. And, like this person, I want to preserve the right to anonymity and stop the bot armies from wrecking the internet. Anonymity should cost some amount, because again, are you going to spin up 100 bots if it's going to cost you $8 a bot? You know what I mean? Like that's an expense. Now, some funded stuff, but it could definitely dramatically cut down on some of these things. And so to that, Joe said, hey, I agree with this, and I also agree with that too, allow anonymity, but charge for it. Otherwise, there's some fake American right bot trolls, all the way down. And so again, a lot of people were reacting to stuff, maybe in this debate, that are more pro-Israel or pro-intervention, maybe, potentially. And like, oh, the woke right, this woke right. And then it turns out at least there's one example. I don't know how widespread it is. I mean, I'm not on the back end server here of X that may be a bot, and it could be more widespread than that. I guess Elon and the crew are working on this. So again, the Alex Jones and InfoWar, don't get played out there, because before you start casting aspersions on people, like whatever. I mean, dude, this coalition just came together. Just chill. Like give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Like, listen, we elected Trump. He's a commander in chief. He's going to make the call, and that's it. And I trust Trump and Vance. And if it's dramatically something that I don't like, then I might say something, whatever. But at the end of the day, let him do his job. Let him cook, bro. That's where I'm at on it. And same thing with Bibi and the rest out there. Now I'll get to some of that stuff too. So I think that I do appreciate Joe, like with that. And I think Joe's a cool dude, and I think Joe is a strong conviction, strong opinions. But I think that Joe is definitely someone that will have the discussion and will exchange the ideas, and will listen, right? And I think so. I mean, I think that, okay, I'm going to get to this. Because Bibi's had some good interviews lately and stuff like that. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Am I missing anything here? Yeah. So the Qatar thing. And so again, that's a thing. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I need to drill down on that. There were some people saying, oh, then we need to look at Qatar too. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, come on, dude. But then Joe's like, positive global development. These are Qatar's a lot of talent, a lot of wealth, natural ally, blah, blah, blah. So, and increasing the Abraham Accords, and the Abraham Accords is the way to go. Again, look at UAE, look at Dubai, look at some of these places out there. And some people are like, with the Tucker Carlson, oh, he's funded by Qatar. Oh, like, dude, you got to try to figure out how to work with people. Got to try to, Saudi Arabia today is different than Saudi Arabia from before. They're evolving. UAE's evolving. And like, just look at the landscape, look at the skyline, dude. I mean, so, Israel's evolving. We're evolving. You know what I mean? So I don't know if there's much more here. Let's see. So Barry Weiss making the argument here, I think that, like, look, sometimes freedom isn't free, kind of an idea, right? That sometimes it's tough things to do and stuff. And these are the discussions, right? And so, okay. So that's kind of some of the discussions that are out there. Barry Weiss, another big name. And I think she's partnered with Joe on University of Austin. I think that's right. And she also has the Free Press and just different endeavors out there. Has been very successful as well. Okay. So that's Joe Lonsdale. Now, Sean McGuire. Sean McGuire is a partner at Sequoia Capital. And, I've exchanged an email with Sean McGuire. I've had some different back and forth on comments. I've put some comments on some of the things he said there, and he hasn't responded recently. That's okay. And sometimes that's good. I mean, and sometimes that to me, it's like, oh, maybe I did a good post. if I'm on the other end, if I'm in the other end of an idea, if you will, or policy. And so Sean has evolved his thinking, and I may have, I did these posts really late at night last night, and maybe I'm totally wrong and I messed up and the worst ever, and I reserve the right to revise and extend. But I think these could be helpful, at least in terms of a discussion point, for some potential frameworks, and then where maybe Trump can go with some of this stuff. And we'll kind of, I'll do a couple more of these and we'll wind down on this. I think we've hit a lot of these pretty well. There's also JD Vance I might want to get to. Yeah, let me actually, before I do that, let me jump to Trump, obviously the president. And Trump has said things like, we know exactly, unconditional surrender. 14 hours ago, there's been a lot of different Trumps from Truth Social. We know exactly what so-called supreme leaders had. We are not going to take him out, at least not for now. Thank you for your attentions matter. Like we're trying to do a deal. So, Trump's been very engaged on that and stuff like that. So that's Trump. JD Vance, Vice President Vance. Sometimes he'll tweet as vice president. Sometimes he'll tweet, on his own. And he's like, yeah. And so he's basically, look, I'm from the inside. 15 hours ago, crazy bias towards our president and my friend, of course. A lot of crazy stuff on social media. That's it. Don't get yourself worked up. Don't let yourself, you don't know. Want to address something as the Iran issue. Trump's been consistent for 10 years. Can't have a nuclear weapon. Yep, said that. He's encouraged his team to reach a deal. Okay, reach a deal with the Iranians to accomplish the goal. Right. So deal first. They didn't, but unfortunately, they didn't do that. So we could happen in one way, easy way or the other way. Right. Confusion, civilian nuclear. Okay, they get into this. Civilian. Okay, guard everything. Okay, it's okay. Restraint and keep our military focused on protecting our troops and protecting our citizens. So America first. Okay. May need to take further action. He may decide, okay, to belong to the president. I totally agree. That's his job. Let him do his job. Let him cook. Let him do his job. Okay. And the American people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. That's the vice president, a Yale law graduate, a former VC saying that. So for all the people out there talking about the woke right and the fringe and stuff, that is the vice president. So chill out. There's a reason why people are concerned, because they probably know someone that maybe went to war, maybe got injured, or a friend of a friend, or a boyfriend or husband or whoever like that, or themselves or whatever like that. And in Afghanistan and Iraq, whatever. And JD Vance is a veteran of the Iraq wars. So, these are serious matters. And then there's Pope Leo too. Maybe I can pull up Pope Leo super, super quick. Let's see here. He's been saying different things. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, there we go. Sisters and brothers, I encourage you to oppose every form of violence and oppression. The world needs so much. There's so many armed conflicts today. Let us continue to pray peace throughout the entire world. All right. And that's coming from, the Pope, and who is the leader of, over like 1.4 billion Catholics in the world. So that's not a joke, and, that's a huge right there. It's a huge amount, right? So that's a big statement. Now, that's, what you'd expect the Pope to say and everything like that. But that's an important thing. Now, the other thing before I get to Sean McGuire and then Netanyahu, Rogan, Tim Dillon, also in fair respect here, Laura Loomer, very good at opposition research and all that. Laura Loomer, huge account. Everything. I don't follow really her stuff, whatever, but I know I'll see the stories. Sometimes she comes and she's very talented. I think she came up with James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, and all that, and or the whatever he was doing at the time, and very skilled in there. And what she's saying is like, hey, here's a FAR document here, and she's saying that Tucker Carlson did some piece that the state of Qatar embassy or whatever of the state of Qatar paid $200,000 for the interview with Tucker. So I guess the implication is, hey, money's rolling around. And fair enough, right? I mean, and I think to me, and that goes to Tucker's point, but also to Senator Cruz's point, which is, I think it's totally fine and reasonable to talk about, if we're going to talk about Iran's nuclear program. Let's talk about Israel's nuclear program. Let's make, everyone should be in the same international framework or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, just seems, again, this reciprocity, I mean, just seems kind of logical to me, whatever. Similarly, if people, for the critics that want to talk about, APAC and Israel, let's talk about Qatar. Let's talk about China. Let's talk about, and we've seen that different money goes around. So I mean, there is an globally, whether we talk about Qatar, whether we talk about China, whether we talk about, I don't know who, for some of these states there, and that goes into the elections and money and how we do things and Citizens United and whatever. I don't know, but and FARA, and I don't know. I don't know all the different, but it's like, it doesn't, if a congressional seat takes $1 million, $2 million, whatever like that, for these states, like let's say that some of these states or some of these companies, some of these multinational companies even have massive money and they want to play or rich, people, or, like look at what Elon Musk did. And then Elon Musk came in and did some great stuff on our side. But I mean, people complain about now the left complains about Elon and the right complains about, other people and et cetera, and so, particularly a state can have outsized influence. Now, people used to say the same thing about the NRA, and I think that these things are. That's where I'm kind of going with this. Like, I think it all works out. I think disclosure and openness is the way to go. I think it's also cyclical. I mean, at one point it's this, and people talked about it was the moral majority, and it was the NRA, and then it was Planned Parenthood, and then there's different things. And I think that whatever's legal is whatever's legal. I have no problem with anything as long as that's our system. If we don't like the system, change the system, but just have equal, fair playing field for everybody. Everybody should have this be playing. Everybody should be playing by the same rules, whatever those rules are. And and fair is fair. So it's fair enough for Laura Loomer to point this out with Qatar, and people could say. Maybe Tucker says, "Oh, it's no big deal that I get money from Qatar," and maybe people say, "Well, it's no big deal that I get money from APEC, or I get money from Soros, or I get money from Elon, or I get money whatever Gates Foundation, whatever it is, I don't know, or the Zuckerbucks or whatever, So, but I have no problem talking about it. To me, money's just money, and money can. Money's helpful in elections, but we've seen elections where we've been outspent major amounts. Money's it's not everything by any stretch. I've seen money win and I've seen money lose, so yeah, I mean, like, well, look at this. I mean, how much money did Kamala Harris spend versus Trump, right? We got outspent major on that. So, so I appreciate Laura Loomer going out there and getting that information, and fair enough. But fair is fair to both ways. I don't see it as I don't think it's that big a deal and that dispositive, but I think that it's fine to have the conversation. Okay. Now let's move on. Now along those lines, and this is no offense whatsoever. And I've never been to Qatar. What mine going seems interesting. Whatever. I want to go to. And then want to go to the whole region, right? I mean, obviously, I got to go back to Israel and everything, and see the family and all that, and see all the different holy sites and stuff. But I definitely want to go to Dubai and check that out. And so I no disrespect to anyone. I think they're doing some great stuff. But this is Tim Dillon. He's a comedian, so I think this was kind of this is Tim Dillon being a comedian. How about that? We'll go with that. This is Tim Dillon being a comedian. Here we go. Now I can't play it. And the Free Press How Guitar Bought America new episode out now. This is pinned. I was looking for other stuff, but I stopped on this. And it's kind of timely. And it's Tim. He's like, he's oh my gosh. And it's basically he's doing a bit. He's doing a bit like, oh, what do you mean I'm bought it? I don't know what you're talking about. There should be some sign that I'm bought. There should be. He's doing a little dance. He's got a little tiger. That says, he's a comedian, dude. And listen, I mean, it takes money. Well, let me put it another way. It takes a certain amount of money to have a great production. There are some people that are very successful that have built it up and have on lean setups, no doubt about it, and have been self-made. But then there's other folks out there, and I'm not going to name names. I know some of them, not all of them. I mean, whatever. That are able to put massive amounts of money out to boost posts and basically advertise their videos and get the views on the videos. And they're very viewable. Yeah, where they're spending 10, 20, 50, $100,000 plus a month on videos to get them viewed and stuff like that. And I mean, geez, I would be super. I mean, I couldn't even imagine if I had that kind of money to put against that, and let alone all the stuff and whatever. And it is what it is. So, I mean, when you're funded, you're funded. And I remember when we were first getting going, that channel was called Conservative Media before I, revised it and sort of rebranded it, did a pivot. Obviously, we still talk about those kind of issues. But I remember someone called me up, and they were from DC. Like, hey, I think it was like a consultant. I don't think it was a reporter. I think it was a consultant and stuff like, it's one of the insiders, right? Who's funding you? Who's funding you? Where do you get your? I'm not funded. What are you talking about? I was just good. We were growing like a lot. I had tens of millions of views and whatever. And I think I've got 63-ish million total views on my stuff. Most of them happened before. And then, somehow I started doing stuff on Obama. Somehow not too long after that, the channel just started. I mean, it wasn't, it was not, it wasn't too far after that. Started coming out there and doing some stuff. It's a little ways. It wasn't, it at some point it dropped like a rock, and it just never recovered since. So you be the judge. Who knows? Did YouTube evolve? Did everyone else catch up to me? I don't know, dude, but I could, I can't show you, but if I could show you a graph, it was like, boom, bungee jump. And it's been down there, ever since. So it is what it is. Now some things can kind of go whatever. And I'm not sitting here crying about it. And life is what it is. I made the choice I made. The point is a couple of points. I'm not a sellout, number one. Number two, a lot of these operations, these media operations are funded. That's why we get into like when people talk about some of the big, broadcast media or some of the public and some like there's a lot of crying that because these things are deficit fund, they can't exist on their own. They don't make enough money on their own, or they feel like, the cause and you need major money to compete with it. Now in the area of podcasting with the new better technology and stuff, you don't need as much money to be competitive, to get out there and do stuff and do stuff that can do well. So there are people that can break through. That being said, having some amount of money behind you can make a huge difference. I mean, there's a massive difference between, let's say, a self-starter bootstrap person that can put $1,000 into this per year in equipment, stuff like that, versus even a moderate corporate budget of like $50,000, $100,000, like certainly $100,000 a year. I mean, you could do amazing things, look like, pro level in my opinion on that. Now, if you want to really, really do amazing things, then, you have a little bit of a team and you have multiple cameras and blah, blah, blah in the studio and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, it does come down to I mean, the real thing is not so much, it's more about the content and building the audience, I think, than it is sheer quality of even the host or the different. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds. Anyway, Tim Dillon. All right, we're winding down here. I'm still going over what I said, but it's okay. We're winding down here. So now let's get to Sean McGuire. Sean, interesting case. Very smart guy. All these dudes are very smart dudes. I haven't touched on Keith Report. There's a lot of dudes I can talk. I mean, but you get into the gist of it. Sean's an interesting dude. He's been talking about these topics a lot. And he's very much pro-Israel. Looked like he was pro. I don't want to misspeak. I'll pull up his stuff. I'll let him speak for himself. But it seems like he's evolved a little bit. And I had some talk to him, and I kind of sent some things out there. And so this is what he says. And that's really unfortunate. I hope, I absolutely hope that's not true. I don't think that's true. Not in America. I really don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I hope that's not true. And I don't think that, but I haven't done all the super research. I mean, I can't, I'm basing that on sort of anecdotal, personal experience, whatever. But again, man, my disposition is, I have stuff coming at me. I tune it out. You know what I mean? So, I mean, maybe I'm not tuned to it. You know what I mean? So that's possible. That's possible. And then you had this, and this doesn't make any sense to me either. And again, where we just had the polls. We're saying that we support Israel taking this action. So I don't know who's anti-Israel. I mean, what large percentage of people are anti? So again, I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think don't. Well, I like to be positive and stuff like that. We just had the poll, which is like, I think, again, it was back on that, Rich Bear, Sean McGuire, where it's like the majority of the people favor Israel, support Israel doing this action, but it's just whether we should be involved. So again, I don't understand. So anyway, Sean said this, and Sean had done some different things, and then, okay, Dave Smith, so he's doing that, and then he's saying this, and then he's talking about, okay, some different stuff, and then he's talking about the Gaza thing. That's cool, and we'll get to that in a second. And so he's saying some different stuff here. And let me see if I can find some of his early stuff here. Iran's a proxy of China. Okay, what did I tell you? So that's an important point. So if we hold on to that, now, Sean, and he said this publicly and stuff like that. I believe he used to work for the CIA, Intel background, Caltech, PhD, Stanford. I mean, a brilliant guy. I think he's a physics PhD, Sequoia Capital partner. That's one of the best VC funds in the world. I've known a bunch of, I knew Don Valentine, not really well, but I've met, Mike Moritz, met him, not saying we're buddies or anything like that, but I've known some people, some of the heavyweights at Sequoia, just a great venture capital firm, very successful in Menlo Park in California. I used to work in Palo Alto, right over there. Most precursors for Iran's weapons come from China. Well, why couldn't China just give them a weapon? You know what I mean? Like, so a week in Iran is a win for the West. Well, again, are we getting sucked into a proxy war here, Sean? Now, you're more of an expert on like intel military stuff than I am, but that's a little scary. And he talked about the people trying to march from Egypt to Gaza and stuff. Egypt blockades Gaza. There's different things going on here. So you can see, like, again, I'm not judging anybody. Not judging anybody. I love you, Sean. You're great. But like, this isn't and I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just hear me out. And maybe I'm getting myself down a rabbit hole. But this isn't exactly like, I think, like Bill Ackman talks about this. Bill Ackman talks about a lot of different stuff. He'll talk about Djokovic. He'll talk about Nike. He'll talk about Berkshire Hathaway. He'll talk about like, hey, here's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Here's my tree. Here's Harvard. He'll talk about all kinds of, and Sean will too. But you can see, this is like a partner of this is the Twitter feed of a partner at Sequoia Capital. I mean, I can't even, if you don't know, just look at, like, I can't stress you, like, this doesn't feel like a normal Twitter feed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, there's a focus, and maybe quite right. And maybe in some ways I'm on a similar vein. It's like, everyone should be able to talk about everything if you're passionate about different things, and it doesn't make you not corporate. So in some ways, I'm proud of Sean for that. But I guess I like my tune, but I like my tune and maybe JT Lonsdale's tune a little bit, like talk about it, be passionate about it, but listen to others and tune. Now, Sean did seem to tune it a little bit, I think. Here, we'll get to that. And this is a weird thing. Okay, so I'm just trying to Okay, so you see some stuff here. Okay. Okay, we'll get back to Obama because Prime Minister Netanyahu talked about Obama. That was very interesting. Um, and see, okay, so here's Sean's talking about this. Okay, we don't want ground war, but a short, little thing, whatever. JD Vance. Okay, and let's see here. There's something where the whole Churchill Chamberlain. We've heard this a million times. Like I get it, but like today, that's like now is now. Psychotic. No, excuse me. Let me revise. I apologize. Totally disagree with that. I mean, I don't know who would ever say anything like that. Okay, I'm not casting aspersions, but like I completely disagree with. I don't like just like, yeah, maybe so, maybe so. So I mean, look, there's some crazy stuff that's being said on the internet, but is it real? Is it a bot? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. How do I know? You know what I mean? Like I can't. How do any of us know? But don't get played. But maybe there's some. So we all have to treat each other right and civilly, and do as good as we can in very heated stuff. And it's tough, dude. I mean, it's like I don't want to talk about my wife or anything like that, but I mean, dude, she's stressed out. I'm stressed out, but I mean, like she's really stressed out, and I get it. I mean, it's scary. Gosh, help us if we're there. Oh my gosh, or or a citizen in Iran. So, but think about think about it, Sean, and you're very smart. I mean, chaos is not organic, driven by force. So, could that maybe be on X too? And we've seen that some of it is. So, I think people are coming around. I'm going back because I want to show something. Then I'll go forward. I'll talk about myself. And I'll talk about Netanyahu. And I'll close on Rogan. Okay. De-escalation. Okay. Inflection point. Sovereign capital. Should you know? Some blah, blah, blah. And this person was talking about. Okay. All right. Okay. So June 13th, Islamic regime in Iran is done. Wait a minute. I thought we were going after the Israel's going after nuclear stuff. So now we're talking about regime change. Proxies defanged, Iranian people will be free, and I don't want to see too much. He said it publicly, and maybe I'm not here to psychoanalyze anyone. I'm certainly no professional or anything like that, but and I think Sean revealed that his wife is a Persian, a Jewish Persian person, a Persian Jew or whatever. I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of Jewish people in Persia. And I'm no expert like that. I know I've had some fair amount of Persian friends, particularly in California and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of people that talk to the Shah and some other people that are maybe expats and stuff like that. Like, hey, we want our country back. Hey, this is how it was in 1979. And I totally get that. Like, I mean, you think about like I know a lot. Like here in Florida, there's a lot of people. For example, there's a lot of people from Cuba, and there's a lot of people from Venezuela. And Colombia. Now Colombia's a little bit better now, right? But I mean, like people like, yeah, I wish I could go back, or it got messed up with Chavez and Maduro or Castro and all this type of stuff. So I completely get that, and maybe that's everyone has their own passion to it that they bring to it and their own point of view, and I fully get that. So I understand that. This will end with the Islamic regime in Iran completely embarrassed on their way out. But you can see the number of posts here, right? Iran started the war, and maybe in Israel's now, and that may be. And so that's the argument. And I get it. I fully get it. I fully get it. Unprecedented success. And he had something. I don't know if he deleted it or I missed it or something. There was something about 90%, 1%. I don't know. It was something like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe I apologize. But okay, now we're getting into some business stuff. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And whatever. He can do whatever he wants. It's his Twitter feed. He can do whatever. I thought I saw something that maybe I missed it. But I somewhere I thought I saw something that was kind of an optimistic, very optimistic assessment. Like maybe it was Bill. Maybe it was Bill Hack. I don't know. I think it was. I may be wrong, but I thought it was either Bill or Sean. And I'm like, that seems, I don't know, dude. That seems pretty optimistic. Like, these things haven't worked out so well. They just haven't worked out so well. With the regime change things. You just don't know. And it always takes longer and costs more money and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so now he put something up here. And he had an evolution, and I've been commenting on so many different people's things. And Batya Unger had some good. I'll refer you to. I can't go over everything. I'm going like really long as it is. I have to get to sleep. So I got to be able to show up for my daughter in the morning and everything like that. Obviously, and so Caltech physics PhD, partners Core. I mean the guy's amazing. Okay, so he put something here about destroy Iran's nuclear program. I took this as a little bit of an evolution. Maybe. Destroy their ballistic missile launch and production capabilities. Destroy their critical war machine supply chain. Do not aim for regime change. Okay, so does it seem maybe different? No American boots on the ground. No, I'm not allowed to do anything. A limited war akin to Desert Storm. Leave the rest of the Iranian people. Okay. Now, I put something in there, and, this may be totally wrong, and I apologize if it is. And, I don't, I love it. Love and respect everybody and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to and I'm said, okay, not signing on to this, still gathering data, hearing from relevant flows, blah, blah, blah. We all need to be, okay, very Silicon Valley. You can, think this one out, may have more. Okay, so you can see some of the stuff here. My disposition is anti-intervention, but I've heard good arguments on both sides. So, what I'm basically saying here, and you can read it, is what exactly are you saying? What exactly are you proposing? Number one. Number two, think of this as a VC, you know what I mean? In terms of, obviously very different, but in terms of if you're going to ask the American people to go in, spend money, like we didn't, what have we gotten for Ukraine? We tried to get a rare earth mineral deal just to get some money back from Ukraine and to end the war. And Zelensky, what did he do right in front of Trump in the Oval Office, dude? I mean, American people aren't down for that. And no one's saying like Netanyahu's he's very skilled, very diplomatic, been saying a lot of the right thing, junior partner. And I'm not saying anyone needs a genuflect or anything like that. Or I'm not trying to use religious thing. I'm more of let me change that. Let me take that back. It's I'm not saying he needs to say that. I'm saying that I think that Netanyahu is a very smart, very savvy politician. Respect him for that. And I think he understands the American politics. And I think he's way savvier and much more polished than Zelensky, in my opinion. He's a lot more experience too. And look, you need it. This is a tough. We need it right now. So props to people cannot like that. And you got to respect. You got to respect the game, dude. And like I said, I've always been a Netanyahu supporter. There's some things that have got me pause, and I'll look into that. Okay. I'm so my thing is you got to be able to talk about it, right? If you want to go to the deal, why so? How do you limit the downside? Huge problem I have is a lot of emotional arguments. Right. A huge problem I have is there's been I've heard a lot of emotional arguments and name calling, casting aspersions, not helpful. What are the logical arguments? What are the actual proposals? Oh, it's easy. I'm not saying that's what Sean's saying, but some other people are saying that. Someone else said something too, and I came up with some different scenarios. Should the U.S. So what are you actually proposing? What is your ask? Should the U.S. do this? Are we doing this together? Are we giving them a bomb? Are we the ones bombing there? How long are we bombing? What are we bombing? What are we doing? How much are we paying? Are they paying? You know what I mean? Like all these things matter. And talk to the American people about it. Try to get some support for it. Try to get some sign on for that before you just go do it. Right? Can we get consensus on that? I think that's what Trump's doing right now. I think Trump's talked to Russia. I think Trump's talked to China, the other people like that. Don't just go, and I have another feed for now. Someone else said something and I responded to it somewhere. Okay. Yeah. Study late. I'm interested in hearing people's opinion on this idea. I don't want Iran to have a nuke, but I also don't want to be lied to about the Iraq war. Tough decisions. So I'm like this. Plus, don't forget potential knockoff effects, less consequences, hypothetical scenarios. This is just stuff I just came up with. I'm not saying that I came up. I mean, I've heard some different things, but I'm no foreign policy and military expert. And if I can come up with this like this, I mean, do you think that, there's all kinds of different iterations. So it's like what Mike Tyson says, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and then anything can happen, right? Once war breaks out, anything can happen, dude. All right. So we sent a carrier battle group to Iran. Now we're tied up fiscally and with supplies in Ukraine and Iran. We're still supposedly supporting Ukraine somehow. So what, we're stretched thin, dude. And China invades. What happens if China invades Taiwan? What happens if Kim Jong-un starts doing something? What are we going to do then? But the main thing is, what if China takes Taiwan? What are we going to do then? I mean, you know what I mean? We can't be in 3 theaters at once, players, or even from a supply of money. I don't know, dude. We spend lots of time, money, and weapons, and nothing really changes. And that's been the experience with a lot of these things. We get involved in war, escalates. Turkey comes in, Pakistan, Russia. I don't know, We get involved and are tied up, and Russia takes over and destroys Ukraine. Okay, you guys go do their thing, and meanwhile, I'm just gonna. And I think there's been some things escalating in Ukraine, so it's not like that's pure speculation. BRICS ally or Pakistan just gives them a nuke for deterrence. We're winning and it threatens China's oil supply, and now they get involved. I'm no, so okay, so you see things here. So the point is, a lot of things can happen, dude. And it's hard to fight and win a fight long ways off, supply lines and someone else's turf. Russia, and that's Tucker Carlson's point. There's 92 million people in Iran. If the Iranian people and the Iranian military are not somehow for this or stand down or whatever, how are we going to win this long term? What if the replacement is worse than the, again, okay, Saddam's no longer in Iraq. How great is Iraq right now? Gaddafi's no longer in Libya. How great's Libya right now? Okay, we had the Arab Spring around. How are all those countries doing? I don't right? I'm not an expert, but I mean, how's Somalia doing? How's Sudan doing? How's Afghanistan doing? So I think we need to, and then like Charlie Kirk says, what happens to all the asylum seekers and the migrants and stuff like that? There's a lot of, it's a Pottery Barn thing. You break it, you buy it. So I think we need a little bit of caution here. Okay. I just think we need to think through it, right? So, Russia and USA lost in basically, or didn't win in Afghanistan. Is Iran tougher or weaker than Afghanistan? Okay, the terrain's better. I get it, but please, that's not even close. Nowhere near close. All right. And then I said this other thing. And again, then maybe this is the worst tweet ever. And I don't mean anything wrong with it. No disrespect, no offense or anything like that. But I'm just trying to play some things out, again, using the principles of reciprocity, different things like that. To Sean saying, okay, potential counter proposal evolution. And maybe I'll have to revise and extend and remarks and delete and whatever. Publicly prove the nuclear danger. Show it. Show your work. Now, I think Netanyahu's been out there saying some stuff. People feel like they've got sold a bill of good with Iraq war, WMD and stuff like that. So can you show this? Can you prove it? Can you show it? Can you get the American people on board? Because as I showed you before, right now the American people are not on board. They're not on board. They are not on board. So that's a huge political risk. Huge political risk. Okay. And be careful what you wish for, because, they've got nowhere to go. The Republicans have to, there's a big anti-war bloc and libertarians, stuff like that. If that stuff swings to, let's say Ro Kahana gets his way and now the Democrats become the anti-war party again, as they used to be for decades. And now someone like an AOC or someone like that takes up the mantle, and AOC is one of the leading stars over there. Do you want an AOC running things? How's that going to work? How was relations with Israel and the Middle East? How was peace and prosperity working when Biden, foreign policy when Biden's team was in there? Be careful what you wish for, dude. Because everything's not about pushing buttons electorally and media wise. And money can only do you so much. Voters are going to vote. Voters vote, dude. All right. So anyway, number one, so talk about that. Build public support and international support for potential action if absolutely necessary. Diplomacy first. Try hard to make a deal in good faith. Any military direct support must be limited, upfront in time, scope, and clearly defined, as I said before, and publicly stated. Yes, that has a strategic disadvantage, but a huge potential political and PR advantage. Make a deal, or we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. There's a limit. This is what we're going to do. There's the limits, whatever it is. It's the nuclear degradation, whatever it's going to be. I don't know. Whatever Trump decides. But just say this is it, because then you don't have to worry winning, losing. This is what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to do. That's the ask. I'll get back to that. And then I say just questions. Just again, I'm not saying anything. I'm not alleging anything. I'm not casting any aspersions. I'm not, I'm peace, love, and freedom. Love Israel. I love everybody, everything like that. But I just want to know where people are coming from. I just want to know what the thinking is, so that we can all kind of like talk this out together. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, well, here's a question. They didn't answer any of these. He didn't answer any of these for me. You know what I mean? The answers other people has answered me before. Didn't answer any of these. So would Israel be willing to pay for our support? Simple question. Simple question. I think Cenk said that over the years, we've given Israel like $311 billion or something like that. You know what I mean? And same thing with Zelensky. They did some kind of rare earth deal or something like that with the UK or EU or something like that. Like, dude, we just gave you all this money. Why couldn't we get that deal or something? Why can't we get some money back? Like, it's hold on. I got to think how I want to phrase this. Some people say, oh, America goes on they do all these different things to take over stuff and get the resources and the oil. I don't know. Maybe I'm not saying, maybe historically, but when has that happened recently? All we're doing is paying. And I don't know what we're getting for it, and people are like, what? So just a question. We lost a lot of money in Ukraine, and many of Trump's coalition are not looking to double down on that. In fact, this is not a fringe number. It's a majority, huge majority, depending on the poll. Would Israel be willing to make peace in Gaza, pull back settlements, and work on a lasting peace deal and framework with the Palestinians that all are actually happy with and can live with sustainably? Again, no expert and super complex. It needs to be solved. But why not now? Okay, so let me start it. I don't know what to do. I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like it's a super, super tough thing, right? So I've heard a lot of different arguments. So all I'm saying is a couple things. We have to try to figure out a solution. There's a lot of people that there's a lot of super pro-Israel supporters that look at what's happened in Gaza and like, there's a lot of people that are horrified of October 7th and horrified of what's going on at this point in Gaza. You know what I mean? And I think that it's, I'm just trying to speak plainly, to my friends in Israel, to leadership in Israel and stuff like that, to, and others. It's like, to, Israeli supporters here and stuff like that. That's like, I think we, the camera's out. I'll do a little more verbal here, and then we'll wrap up. I do apologize. I should have, forgot 2 hours is the hard stop. But we'll keep going audio wise because this is too important. So now it's an audio podcast. Here's the thing: is that this has been going on a long, long time, and you gotta treat people the way you want to be treated. And I'm not alleging anything or casting any aspersions. Obviously, Israel has security concerns. I think Hamas, and maybe it's not unlike. It's a somewhat similar argument to Iran. Hey, we're not against the people, we're against the regime. Hey, we're not against the Palestinian people, we're against Hamas, which is that's who got elected. That's the regime. But okay, so let's take that argument. Dude, if you can't get a handle on Gaza and it's been a total mess and a cluster, for what are we almost where it's getting close to 2 years now? How are you gonna figure that out in Iran if it doesn't come internally from the people? For those just joining, I have to do it audio now because I can do the share screens, but I mean I'm off camera, but I can share the screens and we'll go off that. Maybe that's the best I can do at this point because I've gone so long that my camera cut out, so it's audio plus screen. And again, I'm not dissing anybody, and I think that Israel has you look at the comparison of what Iran's doing versus what Israel's doing in terms of what assets are being targeted and stuff like that. I mean, I think there's definitely a distinction there for sure. And I'm not Israel's are a great ally and stuff like that. All I'm trying to say is that sometimes there needs to be a little bit of honesty, realism, and humility in terms of these things. Don't, again, this just shows that war is heck. It doesn't always turn out the way that you think. An occupation's always a hard deal. Regime change always a hard deal. These things don't work out so great, and we just have to understand that, dude. I mean, who's been able to invade and hold Russia? Nobody. Not Napoleon. Nobody. Afghanistan. Nobody. So, I mean, so I think where I get down is, and I wish I had the camera on, I do apologize, but it is what it is. I think where I'm at now is, look, dude, we have to find a different way. Everybody. And, and I'm not saying this is the case, but Israel can have a situation where people may potentially feel like they're second-class citizens, where it's like, where the Palestinians feel like they don't have a fair shake, where they feel like they can't have a homeland, where they feel like they're going to get displaced, and I don't know, I have no idea what's true, and I'm not casting any aspersions, but I mean, we got to find a way to stop the fighting. At the same time, Israel has to have security. Israel is our ally. We backstop our ally. Do we have to keep paying for stuff now? They're doing really well. I don't know how much longer we have to keep doing the funding. I don't know. But I mean, we have to look at these things. If we're doing the funding, we absolutely have a say. Absolutely have a say. So the people that say, you can't say anything or else you're anti-Semitic. You can't say anything or else you're against Israel. No, dude, we're spending tons and tons of money. There's veterans that are homeless. There's people that are hopped up on painkillers. There's people that have lost their limbs over here. There's people that can't get jobs. There's people that still don't have anything because of the hurricanes and stuff like that, North Carolina and other places like that. We absolutely have a say. And we want to know who's lobbying, whoever it is, anybody. Any foreign government, anyone, our government, we want our politicians to represent us and the will of the people. If there's a disconnect, it could be multinational, it could be pharmaceutical, it could be anybody. It doesn't matter, dude. Our politicians, and there's a disconnect with what the people, what that's problematic or discussion point. And so what I think, if Trump is smart, well, I'll get to that in 1 second. I think where I'm coming at is like, look, can we, sometimes one-offs it's easier to get a deal one bite at a time, right? How do you climb a mountain one step at a time? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Okay. And sometimes with all the interlocking pieces, it's easier to get a deal done all together, if that makes sense. Like you can't do a deal without doing the whole thing, right? So what does Israel really, really want? The critics of Israel, they're trying to expand in greater Israel and there's more settlements and we're going to be displaced, and okay. And then they have their arguments, right? Look at what Iran's saying, and they're saying death to America, and they're saying death to Israel, and they're saying, and blah, blah, blah. But I think that most rational people can say, listen, Jewish people have been persecuted. Israel has lived through different wars. Israel is a small country. Israel does have very real security concerns. There is stuff on their borders that they've had to contend with. It's not a joke. It's very serious. We see it right now. Okay, so I mean, but before that, October. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, and then you get the Hatfield McCoy and the chicken and the egg. Who started? And we can go on back forever. But I think that if you strip it all away, and again, not to say I have anything that much. I think I know how to ask some of the right questions. I hope. I don't know. Again, I may be completely wrong. I apologize for making any mistakes. I'm just trying to figure this out and do the best thing and all that, as a huge supporter of Israel, a huge supporter of everybody, huge supporter of Palestinian. I love everybody. You have to acknowledge that Israel has real security concerns. That's a real thing. That's number one. You also have to acknowledge that the Palestinians have real self-governance and whatever you want to call it, self-determination, equal rights, whatever concerns, right? That's not woke, right? That's not it. That just, it's like, bro, everybody should be, everyone has to have the same rights. And everyone has to know, like, whatever it is, like, okay, well, just be straight up about, like, okay, well, we think Israel should have these borders, or we think there should be this border. We're going to do one state. We're going to do two states. We're going to do one state, but everyone's all totally the same, and has their things and has the land and guaranteed, or we're going to do two states and we're going to do it this way. But so, it's a tricky thing, because if a country is going to have two states, you're going to have self-determination, then they have the right to vote for who they want to vote for. If they vote for a terrorist organization, what do you do then? So this is a conundrum, right? So we got to, so everybody has to step up if it's going to truly be solved. Everyone has to step up. Now, maybe part of that stepping up is if, like Sean McGuire and others, are like, hey, this all comes from Iran, that the real funding, the real infrastructure, and the real comes from Iran. If the Iran situation does get solved, from the Iranian people, again, that's tricky, stuff like that, then maybe, or if they say, hey, Trump, we want you to do that. We want America to do this. Okay, great. Well, I want this for the Palestinian people. And not unlike what Trump did. Maybe it's not super complicated. Like, look what he did with the Abraham Accords. He moved the embassy, as many presidents said they were going to do. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and a lot of Arabs and Palestinians were really upset about that. But we've said that we were going to do it forever. I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to defend anyone, but what's the big deal? Like, it's an embassy. Like, I mean, okay, that's the capital. We moved it to Jerusalem, but then also he got Israel to sign on to the Abraham Accords, and now people can do business and people can travel from Israel to Dubai. One of my cousins, I think, has some stuff in Dubai, has some stuff in Israel. So like that, that's a positive thing, dude. Like, find a way forward. Same thing with Lebanon. Lebanon's doing some cooperation and stuff like that. Syria maybe gets a little bit better. Saudi Arabia is saying some different things. Get the region together and figure it out. So, internally, Israel's just, I think like I said, there's discussions there. There's some people that don't want to serve in the army. Maybe there's different, like, hey, there's people that don't support Netanyahu. Netanyahu has a different coalition. Part of the coalition is a little bit more right wing. So they've got to do some different things. He's been serving for a long time. So, okay, there's, he just won. I think the cabinet, they just held it together by 2 votes. So it shows that there's disagreement there in Israel. So if they have disagreement there, then we can have discussions here without someone being accused of being racist or anti this or something like that. Like, you got to stop with that type of stuff. That we can't get a solution to that. Is there some of that stuff out there? Yeah. Is there more than it should be? Sure. Has it been kicked up recently? Probably. Terrible. We have to get better, but we still have to focus on solutions, and we have to give people the benefit of the doubt. And so what I would love to see for Israel is, I want to see Israel and the whole region, and Palestinians and Lebanon, and there's I have lots of Lebanese friends, and that whole thing, like Beirut, it's suffered terribly. Syria, and the whole thing, like, dude, look at Dubai, look at Saudi Arabia. Let's get everyone cooperating together. Let's get Startup Nation going again. Do unto others as you want to do unto yourself. Figure out how we got to provide Israel security. The whole region needs security, but we also have to provide people opportunity and equal rights. Everyone has to have dignity. You got 3 great major religions there that, the different sites. I am no expert. I am no religious expert, no foreign policy expert, no military expert, no diplomatic expert. I'm just a dude who's pretty smart and all the type of stuff, who's trying to figure it out with some experience and some, kind of stuff like that. And there's got to find a way forward. Trump has shown that he can do that as a deal maker. Steve Witkoff was doing a great job. Okay, if this has to be done right now in Iran, I get it, but do not let that derail all the other things that need to happen, including Abraham Accords V2, including, fair trade and all that type of stuff. And we have to be in a situation where, we have to look at, separate and apart, like, how much longer are we funding Israel and Ukraine and all these other countries, and are the NATO countries going to step up? Are we going to have to now now credit came over here and what I think he was the first. I think they were the first. Like, hey, we're lowering our tariffs to nothing or whatever it is. I don't know what but we're basically lowering our tariffs for U.S. goods. That's great and that's very smart. But you get what I'm saying here. Everything should be on the table. Everything should be able to be discussed. Let's figure out a way forward. And I think that there's a new era that Israel and the Middle East and the Palestinians and the Iranians and the Syrians and Lebanon can all step into, and hopefully the world can step into. And that's the hope. Is it complicated? Oh my gosh, it's terribly complicated. But thank gosh we have President Trump, the deal maker in chief, and we have Bibi Netanyahu and Danny Danon and his team over there that are super experienced and tough. And I think, maybe like Nixon to China, sometimes it takes that kind of experience, capability, and political credibility to be able to move it forward. But for the people here that are Israel supporters or over there, you got to let people talk about things and have a discussion, stuff like that. And if people like American people are writing checks in blood and money, we have a say, dude. If you don't want the say, stop taking the money and stop taking and asking for the military support. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's that. But, we also have to say as a world no to terrorism. We also have to, we also have to have security, all these things. Again, where I'm coming from, I think, in spirit. I don't have it all figured out. If I made a mistake, I apologize. I'm just trying to do the best I can. It is live. I'm not even on the camera. Okay. On to the next topic. So what I think what Trump can do now is, if this is the absolute most important thing and it's super critical for Israel, is existential, great. If we're going to go, we're going to limit it. We're going to do this. But Bibi, I want you to do this. Russia, hey, I want you to back off. Don't do anything. Don't backstop Iran. In exchange, we're going to end the Ukraine war and stop that for you. Okay? That's a big win for Putin. Is that worth it for Putin? Probably is. Probably is, because that's existential for Russia. China, figure that out. Okay, China, we're going to make sure the oils keep going. We're going to do a deal with you, open up your markets. We're going to figure that out, make that deal. So this can be an opportunity. I'm not saying it's 4D chess. Yes, it's all figured out. But I'm saying that maybe Israel has given us an opportunity to solve all these problems, or a significant amount of them, at the same time. And I think Trump's been on the phone with all these people, and I think Saudi and Qatar and a bunch of, and again, people are slamming Tucker and Qatar and stuff like that. Qatar is a big heavyweight over there with the money and stuff like that. If you get Qatar and Saudi Arabia and UAE and Russia and China behind you, you've got the leverage now to figure it out and make the deals. So I'm hoping that happens. So do I want to go to war? No. Do we maybe need to go to war? We might, at least limited, with these strikes, stuff like that, and whatnot, to denuclearize. But if we do anything, get something and get a lot for it that solves as much as possible for it. The real security for Israel and for us and for everyone is peace and cooperation. When people are collaborating financially and culturally and stuff like that, then you don't have this kind of stuff. So we just have to get to a point where we love each other and respect each other and we engage with each other in a collaborative manner. I don't know. You get what I'm saying. All right. Let me show you this. So enough on Mr. Oh yeah. Did I finish on that? Okay. So yeah. So I said that it's just your only ask. What happens? I'm saying, think like a VC here. Again, maybe the worst tweet I ever done. Maybe the worst video I ever done. I don't know. But I'm trying. I just felt like it was needed. I want to do whatever small bit I can to contribute to the conversation, dialogue, and peace, and all that type of stuff, whatever. And I'm like, listen, if people are gonna, invest, then we got to say. This isn't like a blank check forever and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I've seen some people like, oh, this is my absolutely, kind of over the top paraphrase, but I've seen some different things out there. Super simple, runs on the rope, 90 plus years. Like, dude, and Trump, Trump can kind of, be a little hyperbolic too. He's a super salesperson, and I get it and I love it. But I mean, it doesn't always work sometimes. And it's kind of like, the whole Rocky IV thing, like, hey, they beat each other up in the ring. At the end of it, hey, if we can get along and you can get along, maybe our nations can get along, and all that type of stuff. And so, that I think is very important. I was also talking about stuff like that. Okay, so let's move to hang on, I'll put something up here. To let's go to Rogan first, and I'll move to BB. We'll end on BB. Rogan. And so again, the woke right, and this is that, and it's like, no, dude, it's not just like, look at Rogan. I mean, there's so many. So right here, blank of war. Rogan's not for that. Is Rogan woke right? I mean, is everybody woke right? I mean, you have Matt Walsh said some stuff against it. Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Steven Crowder, Dave Smith, Glenn Greenwald, Joe Rogan, JD, and it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's all, dude. It's just, come on, dude. Engage in the arguments and stuff like that. And Rogan is not a Republican. Like, dude, Rogan's like libertarian, liberal, independent, whatever. I'm not speaking for him. BB, I know I put something up that people seem to like, and he's been putting a lot of stuff out there, and I appreciate it. He's been very accessible to the press and doing some stuff and putting some stuff out there. And they do, and they have great videos. Israel has good videos and good. It's great. It's all. And Trump has really stepped out the PR game and stuff like that too. So I appreciate that. And it should be that way. The leaders should be accessible and stuff like that. And people that criticize BB, BB may be the right leader at the right time. I don't know what's going on internally. I can't speak for. I'm no expert in. I don't know what's happening over there. I do know that there's some criticisms and stuff, and obviously it's criticisms like us, which I already went into. Now, this is, I'm probably going to have to back into this some way. Here's an interview that he did. Obviously, this is in Hebrew, and he did a long interview in Hebrew. Give me a second. I'm going to find this here. I got to back into this and go through my comments, because I did a comment. There was someone that put something up. Here we go. I'll be here in 1 second. Okay. All right. Let me put this up. Yeah. Okay. This is the English version or some English translation of some of it. Right. And this is the thing. And this kind of allowed me to kind of explain and critique a little bit some of the folks that were kind of like, oh, the woke right, and all this type of stuff. And like, wait a minute here. And it's the same thing that I had similar conversations with, Mark Andreessen. Tech got into this. They're going to get us out of this. And it's been 8 years and 12. Like, no, player, this has been going on for about 20 years. Okay. I've lived through it. I know what's going on. And a lot of these dudes just came to the party. Well, I don't want to blow my punchlines here in a second. And okay, I'll just read this. It'll be much easier. It's very short, and we're almost done. Rips into Obama. Finally. Now, remember, some people might forget. For those that are criticizing the woke right and Trump and dude, BB had a terrible relationship, in my opinion, from what I saw reported, did not have a great relationship with Obama. In my personal opinion. Okay, remember, like, Obama made him wait outside. There's all kinds of stuff. I don't know if I remember. And then the $150 billion of pallets of cash to Iran and the Iran deal, that was all, Valley Jared. It was all weird. Okay. So out of fear that I would lead an attack, he convinced everyone to enter into an outrageous agreement that paved the way for Iran to have a bomb. Whoa. There you go. That's it. That's coming from Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel right now, and who was Prime Minister at the time. That's right there. Okay. That's a huge statement, players. Okay. Now, here's what I comment. A lot of people were jumping on it. It has almost 10,000 views. That's a lot for me. I have a smaller account, whatever like that. And I said, and this kind of encapsulated a lot of what I've been saying. Speak it. Thanks, BB. Now, question for USA audience. How many criticizing real Donald Trump, MAGA / GOP? No, MAGA is by far the majority of the current GOP. So it's not fringe right, woke right. No, as you're dreaming if you think that. Conservative influence, etc., and maybe voted for the GOP Trump for the first time in their lives. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of these people like, you're not pro-Israel enough. You're woke, right? You're fringe. Trump shouldn't listen to you guys. A lot of these people voted for Trump for the first time. Admittedly, I don't want to name names. It's not hard to find out there. Just look at some of those tech bros and stuff like that. Yeah, I came around. Just look. Okay. A lot of these people have just jumped on the bandwagon. And thank you. Thank you. We love you. We're glad you're here. We need you. I'm not making fun of you. I'm not punking you out. I'm just trying to get perspective and a little bit of caution. Okay. Because what did I say here? How many of them voted for Obama twice? A bunch of them. Okay. So what did Netanyahu say? That Iran had that this was from Obama, buddy. We're in this spot because of Obama. So here's the people that voted for Obama that are now coming over here, maybe voted for Trump for the first time, that are now telling us that, like, hey, you guys are doing it all wrong. You don't support Israel enough, and you guys are chicken hawks, and you're woke, right, and stuff like that. And it's like, bro, because you guys voted for Obama and then Biden, we're in this situation. So what does that say? A couple things. Number one, don't come over here telling us that okay, let me put it a different way. You've already proven that you've had really bad judgment politically. Maybe you've changed. That's cool. That's okay. I get it. But you've already proven that you've had really bad judgment politically. So why are we supposed to now believe you have got it all figured out? Number one. Number two, things can have unintended consequences. Number three, a lot of the people that were quote unquote woke, and I said it somewhere else where I can't pull it up because I have another thing. It's like these are the people that were part of cancel, because I know I've lived in Silicon Valley and I was one of probably the first people potentially canceled, that were like telling people that kicking them off, maybe okay with kicking them off Twitter, okay with DEI, okay with woke. They were okay with BLM. They were okay with COVID lockdowns. They were okay with all kinds of stuff. They were okay with all kinds of, who's woke? Who's saying now that we can't talk about free speech? Who's the one saying that we can't say this? You can't say that. If you say this, you're anti. If you say that, you're a hater. You're racist. Who's saying that? Which side is saying that? Who's saying that? Where's Bill Kristol now? Did he vote for Donald Trump? Are the Democrats pro-Israel? I don't know. I'm not saying. Well, no, let me take that back. Let me revise and extend that. This is someone right here that just Prime Minister Netanyahu just talked about Obama. How was the Biden policy with Israel? How was the Obama policy with Israel? How was the Trump policy with the Abraham Accords to Israel and moving the embassy to Israel? How's the Trump policy to Israel now? Like I go back to the Ronald Reagan thing, which is like, if you believe in so we've had. No, I'm going to be careful what I say. I'm not talking about anything right now. There have been, you look at, Trump calls them the grandstanders now, whether it's Thomas Massey, or I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just going with what I believe what Trump says. Maybe I'm wrong. There's been discussions with Rand Paul. Some people were like, they were all about the deficit. That's their issue. Or back in the day, they were all about gun control. That's their Second Amendment. That was their issue. Or they were all about abortion, the right to life. That was their issue and stuff like that. And what Ronald Reagan said, and I think it was pretty smart, and I'm not saying this exact percentage. He says, listen, if I agree with someone on 80% of the issue, like, we're good. For politics, that's amazing. We're not going to agree on 100% of the issues. I'm not going to agree with, maybe I think Netanyahu's great, or maybe I think Trump, forget about it. Maybe I think Trump's great. I'm not going to, maybe I don't agree with Trump on 100% of the issues. I probably don't. if I was just nobody agrees with everyone 100% of the issues. We're not going to agree with Israel. We're not going to agree with Canada. We're not going to agree with Britain. We're not going to agree with any country on 100% of the issues. That's okay. Like people have to stop with their. That's what's woke. I mean, this with their absolute litmus tests and stuff like that, and cancel culture. Cancel culture is and this oppressed oppressor stuff is the woke stuff. And I don't even care about the definition so much of it. It's more of like, dude, like, come on, like we got to get this thing going on and stop being like, anyway, you understand what I'm saying. I think that I'll wind it down on that. I hope I've done some justice here, and I'm done. So I apologize for my camera going out at the 2-hour mark there, but I had to keep going because it's just too critical, too vital of a subject. Hopefully this will all turn out. I see that people are still on there, so I'm hoping that's right. But I've tried to do the best I can of weaving this through. And if I made a mistake, terribly apologize. Not a foreign policy expert, not a diplomatic expert, not a military expert. Love everyone. We're all team human, dude. That's it. No one's better. No one's worse than anyone else. We're all the same. We're going to find a way to get along. And I trust in President Trump. He's a president. Bibi is the prime minister. I wish the best for the people of Israel. I wish the best for the people of America. I wish the best for people of Iran. And we'll see what's going to happen. If I have to guess, I think that it's either a combined regional or global deal that's going to be interlocking, where we're going to get a lot of stuff for this deal and everyone's going to get something and maybe solve things, or we're going to do a limited denuclearization type of strike, and we're going to see what happens. But we'll see. So that's the best I've got for tonight. I'm sure I'll see you guys later, and I can't wait to see the full Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz interview. So thanks everybody. Love y'all. Stay blessed. Thank you so much, and praying for the people in Israel and Iran. Thank you.